Good evening and welcome to the Lowell Planning Board for May 18th, 2015. Tonight we have 3 public hearings on and a request for a lot release as well under old business. If the board has no objection, I'd like to take a matter out of order and entertain the River's Edge lot release.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we take up the lot release for River's Edge first.
Okay, motion's made, and do we have a second? Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Motion carries.
A as-needed basis. Tonight, there's 6 newly created lots along Addy Way. I notice your agenda has one of the lots missing, so I'd like to amend that. It's 97, 98, 99, 101, 102, and 103. 102 wasn't in the agenda. There's 5 duplex and 1 single-family lots. The roads have been accepted by the city, and we're ready to go.
Okay. Thank you. Judy, I know you had a follow-up with any communication on this today. Could you relate that to the board, please?
Sure. Yes, you're correct. The agenda did not list all the lots, but I do have in writing from the applicant the request for 97, 98, 99, 101, 102, 103. And I did talk to engineering, and they told me that the road had been completed to their satisfaction some time ago. The only issue that they asked that I might look into was a sewer catch basin that had problems in the recent past. So I talked with the wastewater utility today, and I can't remember the name of the person who, he did get back to me, and he said that problem, he went out and inspected it today, and he said it's been corrected and there are no outstanding issues that he knows of. So both engineering and wastewater utility did not have any problems at all.
Okay, thank you very much. So what's the request of the board? First of all, I'll make a motion that we amend the lot release to include number 102.
Second.
We have a second on that, okay? And I'll make a motion that we approve the lot releases as indicated for lot number 97, 98, 99, 100, 102, and 103.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, I'll be abstaining.
Okay, thank you. So we have 4 in favor and none against for the lot releases. Good luck, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Moving along, the next matter is a continuance from our last meeting on 685, 689 Lawrence Street. A public hearing will be held to hear all interested persons relative to an application by David Pescantilli for a site plan approval and special permit for the development of property located at the above address. The proposal includes conversions of an existing 4-story, 60,000 square foot structure into 50 residential condominium units with associated landscaping and parking. The project is in the traditional neighborhood mixed-use zoning district. The project requires site plan approval under section 11.4 and a special permit under section 12.1E of the zoning ordinance. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Hello, I'm David Piscatelli, 3 George Route Way, North Reading. I'm here to talk about the development of 685, 689 Lawrence Street. The last time that we were here, parking seemed to be the main issue, and I think I left the meeting feeling I either needed to locate more parking and/or reduce the number of units. So I've identified 4 potential areas for additional parking. And if you have the plan in front of you, this red line represents the fence, which basically encompasses the parking lot. It's not labeled on your plan, but on my plan, number 1 is an abutter who owns this parcel, which is roughly 2,500 square feet. My other neighbor, which is MGM, which is these gentlemen here. This is parcel 2. And then parcel 3 is just on the other side of the fence, which is a small corner of the Prince property, which I understand is being is recently sold or in the process of being sold. And the fourth one being directly across Lawrence Street. There is 2 vacant lots, which need a little bit of site work, but there's definitely a viable parking there. 1, 2, and 3 obviously make much more sense because they're already touching the existing parking lot. Also, with creating the 2-way entrance off of Lawrence Street and not using the egress onto Andrew Street, we pick up 3 spaces just by the nature of losing that egress. So that puts us at 74 parking spaces. This parcel here would probably generate 7 to 8 spaces. Parcel 1, in conjunction with this piece that is already part of this lot, would probably, you'd probably pick up another 20 or so spots here. I have reached out to all of the owners and am in negotiations, actually just talking to Mike here. He really thinks we can work something out on parcel 2. And in doing my math, my homework on how many units, the break-even number, where it makes sense and doesn't make sense, the rock bottom for me is 44 units with 1 unit in the basement that would be for an on-site live-in manager for the building, for the property, just for maintenance, security, and whatever else may come up. So what I would hope is from the board is to get approval for that 44 and 1, because I don't have any of these parking areas under agreement. If I could get approval for 44 and 1, and then after making these agreements, backfill those what I need to complete what the zoning code is, and then if I create more, allow me to increase the number of units up to the original proposal.
Anything else you want to add? I mean.
No, I mean,
So you don't have
unless
any
you have
of
any
that
questions for me.
Okay. You don't have any of that parking assigned as of yet then, right? I mean, you don't have an agreement that assigns any of that parking that you proposed to it this evening?
There's 3 spaces just by the nature of losing this egress.
Right.
So, right now, the property holds on its own 74.
Right.
I just spoke to the gentleman the abutters, and they said we could definitely work something out for this parcel too, which will give me 7 or 8 spaces. That would put me at 81, which means I'd be very close. I'd be 9 or so spaces away.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody here this evening want to speak in regards to this project? Anybody want to speak in regards to Lawrence Street? Lawrence Street? Lawrence Street? Any of the board members have any questions at this time?
I have
Sure.
at least one. How long do you think before you could come up with a plan that shows your parking, if in fact you're able to negotiate a favorable deal here?
It would take a few hours to add parking because the areas in question are already on the plan.
Right.
So it's a matter of drawing in the lines, taking the square footage and drawing in the lines. You know, the spaces need to be 9 feet by 17 feet. It would take minutes.
All right, that's not exactly what I meant. I mean, you haven't got a deal to do parking in those areas yet.
Nothing in writing, no.
All right, you have
Only
verbal-
negotiations.
So you're still in negotiation stage?
Correct.
Okay. How long before you think you might be able to?
I think they could answer that question better than me.
Well, I'm sure they can, but you're gonna need more time, obviously. Couple of weeks. Okay. All right, that's really all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fischett?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the At the prior meeting, we had discussed, so you don't have any revised plans for us at this point, is that correct?
Because I didn't have any agreements, I really didn't think the need for it, and all of the abutters are actually already on this plan. The areas in question are all on the plan already, even the one across the street.
Yeah, no, and I think one of the suggestions at the last meeting was to eliminate the 8 units on the side.
Yeah, that's automatic, that has to happen.
Okay, so, and then we were talking about basically the streetscape over here and what the options were. And so tonight, you don't have anything regarding that, as well as the circulation with the 3 parking spots and the exit eliminated. And again, we had talked about the placement of the dumpster and how the potential spots, I think, will affect the flow. And I'd love for you to get the additional 20 spots if you could get that.
If you look right here, right, this is parcel 2.
Yes,
The only thing that would happen is this existing line of parking would just continue. It would be the same alley would stay.
okay,
And the other good thing is that would now be a spot here for the dumpster, which would be perfect access coming in. If you can see where I'm pointing right there, right at the end of the road, wouldn't inhibit the parking at all. So you'd pick up additional spaces here and here and here. And obviously, if this piece came into play, then there would be parking along the perimeter of here, and you would come in here, and then you'd have a little loop in here. There's more than enough space back there. You had said something else about talking about the street parking.
the streetscape that we discussed, because if that structure comes down, that brick structure along Andrews Street.
Yeah.
We were talking about the treatment of that and how that would have really a visual effect, positive or negative.
Well, my thought was that mimicking, right now it's almost like a pillar with an arch space in between it, which was a window.
Right.
My thought would be to maintain those pillars and create an arch fencing in between, almost mimicking the outline of that first floor of windows. And that would...
Repeat that down.
Exactly, repeat that down and tie that in,
Right.
you know, around the corner, and that would give you almost the same visual that you would get if there was a building there.
Okay, so that's still, again, we talked about that conceptually when you left.
We did, and
That's-
that, it only makes sense, something needs to be there,
Right.
in keeping with, you know, the look of the existing structure,
Right,
that I think would look good and, you know, serve the purpose of security.
right, right.
Excuse me.
So if we're talking, eliminating the 8 units here. Now, depending upon the number of parking spaces you're able to obtain, either through the site we're talking about or the other back 40, shall we say, 20 spots, are you talking about then reducing the 50 units to the 44, or a total of 45 with the 1 management unit in the basement?
Correct.
Okay.
So if I'm at 74 now and I was able to, it's 7 or 8, you know, until you really get out there and actually measure it.
Right.
To say 7, to go on the conservative end, I would be at 81, and if I was going to do 45, I would be looking for 90. I would be looking for relief on 9 parking spaces.
Okay.
And I think with the number of 1-bedrooms, I really think that would be sufficient.
Yeah. It's a huge improvement from where we are right, where we were at the beginning.
No, and like I said when I started out, that puts me at my break-even number. To go below that, the project, in my opinion, is financially not viable.
And if you go with 7 or 8, I'm just counting this out, it looks like you fall into the threshold where contiguous parking would require a landscape island, so I think you fall under that.
I think there would still be some, where the existing landscaping is now, we'd be able to add the spaces and then still maintain that 5-foot buffer up against the fence for landscaping. It's almost like taking the landscaping that's there now,
Just
pushing it back, and
the
then
line
putting
of
the spaces in
trees that
front.
are there, taking those trees and...
Exactly,
Yeah.
putting them up to the fence line.
Yeah. Now, are you looking to take ownership of that property, or are you looking...
Ownership.
Ownership, okay.
It's really not worth anything to the current owner. It's already on my side of the fence,
Right.
and it allows that whole site to get cleaned up, and it's, in my opinion, a win-win for everyone.
Okay, all right. Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Mr. Boyle?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you go over again, if we're talking about these 44 units, how many of those are we talking about as one-bedrooms?
I believe the breakdown would probably be a little less than half. It's probably 60-40, 60 being 2 bedrooms, 40% being 1 bedrooms.
So, okay. So we're talking the ballpark of 18 to 20 one-bedrooms, producing a requirement of 36 to 40 units. That's the calculation we're using, 2 parking spaces per unit?
Yes, the way the code reads, it's 0.75 spaces per bedroom, or 2 spaces per unit, whichever is more. If we left out the whichever is more part, I would easily conform based on the number of bedrooms.
Right. I'm just trying to do a little math in my head here. So if we assume that the 9 spaces you're missing all come out of...
Yes, they would come out of a portion of the
If
one-bedrooms,
they all
which
come out of the one-bedrooms, and let's say
Correct.
there's only 18 one-bedrooms, that means that...
50% of the one-bedrooms would have 1 space, and 50% would have 2.
Right, right.
And I think the way probably the best do it would be to assign the 1-bedrooms 1 space and have 9 overflows based on need,
Right.
something along those lines.
As an estimate of parking demand, that doesn't strike me as outrageous, to think 50% of one-bedrooms requiring 1 space, 50% requiring 2. Okay. But my biggest question that I have here isn't about parking. My biggest question, the biggest issues that I have on this plan that I'm thinking about is the historic preservation and the walkable, pedestrian-friendly neighborhood angles. And those are really going to rely on having a good, solid landscaping plan, especially for this area that you're taking down and replacing with parking. I liked what you were saying about the basic design concept of pillar and arch. That makes sense. But I think, for example, looking at the plans, they haven't been updated to include landscaping in that area, street trees in that area. That's something.
If
I'd
I was
like
to put
see.
street trees in that area, they would be on the city sidewalk. That property goes right up to, the building where it sits now.
Yep.
Sits right on the sidewalk.
Right. What I'm looking at, though, is if you're taking that down, and I'm looking at your parking spaces.
I would be able to landscape on my side of the wall.
Right. landscape
Yeah,
on-
so
yes,
you'd have pillars with an arch, and I would be able to landscape on the back side, parking lot side of
Right.
that arch.
Right. I'd want, I think that the visual aspect along there is such an important part of this project that I really feel like we need to have a good landscaping plan and elevations also depicting the plan as materials that the board would want to review before we'd be able to act on the project.
I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. It's going to be a small strip, basically, which is going to make up the fence and, a 3 to 4 foot landscaping bed.
Yep.
And,
But those, in an urban context, those things are very important. Those
No,
little
I-
areas, you really, and because they're so little, you have to give them twice as much thought. I'm sure you've had lots of contact with the Division of Planning and Development. I would talk to them about this issue and what they think about the site. There's some excellent design planners there as early as possible in the process.
no, on the last project they did, they actually provided me with a landscape plan, which was pretty helpful.
I imagine. Yep. Where you're going to have a gap between the two buildings, so you're no longer using as that's another landscape
That'll
opportunity.
basically be a walkway. It's an existing walkway or into the building now. That will be maintained. It might be a little smaller
Yep.
based on,
Yep.
how the parking ultimately lays out and how the landscape plan ultimately lays out.
But, and again, from the historic preservation and from the visual aspect and the pedestrian friendliness aspect, designing a really nice entrance there that, looks like people would be coming up and walking into the building in that front door and whatnot, and it's welcoming and accommodating and attractive. That's your front door, literally the front door. And
No, I have the same vision for that entrance. There's a lot of glass in it now. It's actually, it almost has the appearance of a breezeway now because it's
Yeah.
attached to the other building. So that would be, like a one-story entryway that would be really easy to, with lighting, landscape lighting and, vegetation and the fencing, make that look attractive and yet secure, to the tenants and so on.
Right. There's a lot of values here that you have to be sensitive around, but the other side of that, and it's something we've seen happen in the Sacred Heart Church project, is to really take advantage of those as assets. They could really, these things that I'm demanding here are also things that could really be nice for your project. So that, everybody's keeping an eye on the parking here, but it's not just about the parking. That's the other, at least in my mind, that's the other big issue to think about. And I have confidence with the proper amount of thought and attention that, we'll see a really good plan for this. Was that all I had? Oh, I had a question. Yes, your plan for the driveway, which is now, or I'm calling it the driveway, your entry, it's got a lot of cobblestones in there. The cobbles are staying, you're going to repoint and touch up the cobblestones?
No, the
cobbles are all
cobblestone,
going?
no. The way the drainage system that needs to be put in there, cobblestones, it doesn't make sense.
Okay,
That would have to come out and the drainage system would have to be installed and then the area would have to be repaved.
okay. Well, all right then, speaking of your landscaping plan, sounds like you're gonna have a lot of cobbles to use to incorporate into your landscaping plan.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's all I had.
Bob?
Yeah, I just have one, I thought you said earlier that you're looking for build 44 units,
Correct.
plus the 1 unit but you said something about if you got additional parking, you'd like to build out to 50 odd?
Yeah, because the building can accommodate that many units. So my thought would be if I end up purchasing two of these viable parking areas and I have the appropriate amount of spaces for more units, I would love to take advantage of the opportunity to build more units.
Okay, assuming that you would match the parking requirement.
Yes. So in other words, I wouldn't be asking for an additional unit above the 45 unless I backfilled the parking up to the 45. And then if I got 2 more, I'd say, all right, well now I have 92 spaces. Can I get 46?
Okay.
And I'm not looking to get the relief and then piggyback on top of that with the extras. I'm looking to go back to where I left off, backfill to be compliant, and then if I pick up more than what I need, to then ask for the additional units up to, you know, ultimately would be the 58, being 8 in the 689 and 50 in the 685, which is the way it was originally proposed.
So if you got all the sufficient two for each unit,
Right, that would put me at 116 spaces, I believe, is what I would need to build the project out the way it sits in front of you.
okay.
But now your ideal is 50, not 58, right?
There's 50 in 685, and there's 8 in what I'm calling 689, which is the area where the parking is on grade. And that's the building that was going to be rebuilt with the parking underneath and the 2 floors up above, the original proposal.
Okay.
So going down to the 50 units would be only comprise the one building, which is 685. And I'm saying within that building, the minimum that I can, you know, the minimum number of units for that project to be viable for me is 44 and 1.
I would also like to see a site plan that's been drawn with all these considerations on it. So,
Absolutely. I mean, I really thought getting through this meeting and then, because I could have, there's so many different, I didn't know which way anyone was going to receive my suggestions. So based on what you tell me, it won't take me more than a few days to update the plan based on what we're talking about.
that's all I have.
Okay. Richard?
Just, you had mentioned what you referred to as parcel number 1 and 3, which you said was accommodated out of the 20 or so spaces.
Yes,
Are you continuing to pursue that?
I am. I just haven't heard back from the owners of parcel 3 and parcel 2.
So if in fact you got that, you would be looking to do the 50 or so units?
Correct. I guess if I would be within my right to do that, I would like to have the ability to. As I get into the project, it may make sense, based on the money being spent, to actually keep the units less.
Is your mic going? Pull it a little closer, he's saying. Yeah, he's just saying pull it a little closer to you. You're not picking up on it, okay?
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so depending on the number of spaces you actually apply.
Right, and that, I mean, for me, that would give me options to actually, I mean, these numbers now are guesstimates. And once I get into it, if they're going the way that I think they're going, and I'm within my right to add more units, that would, in the space and everything's working out, I would like to be able to do that. If the numbers are going the other way and it's more efficient to have less units, then that's what I would do, and really be able to, you know, be able to manipulate the situation which made the most financial sense.
You seem to be moving in the right direction here, so I think
Thank you.
that'll be fine based on what you ultimately
Thank
be
you.
able to acquire.
So what I see is you'd have to give us a new set of plans. You'd have to include the easement that you had with the gentleman that you told us about last meeting on Lawrence Street to get in and out, which isn't on the plan. You'd have to show us where you pick up the newer parking and the agreement you have with those people, how you're gonna get that parking and share that. You're gonna have to show us the plans, how you're reducing the units in the front. You're gonna have to show us the landscaping plan, and then all of those plans are gonna have to go back to all the city departments for comments, then back to us.
Sure.
Because, so the main thing would be the parking, but you'd have to put that on the plan. So the way it exists tonight, we can't approve this plan without knowing where that parking would be picked up. So I mean, because I know, as indicated, you're gonna have an easement, you're gonna change the access getting in and out, so we'd have to have that on the plan as well. Like they say, and landscaping, how you're gonna lose the other units, how you're gonna pick up the other parking, and then submit all those plans. And, you know, where you have the new curb cut there, where you pick up the new 3 spaces on Andrew Street, how you gonna fix that in there?
there was gonna have to be a curb cut there. There is no curb cut there now. Basically, there's already a wall there, so those spaces would just
Yeah.
be striped out and they'd be created.
So you'd have to show us on the plan how you're picking that parking up. So, like I say, you'd have to submit all those plans. They all have to go back to the city departments for their comments, because now you're changing the parking, you're changing how you're getting in, getting out. So of course, the fire department will want to see that as well.
Actually, the way that we're getting in, getting out is the original way. The Andrew Street curb cut came from a recommendation from engineering because.
But now you're gonna change it and put 3 parking spots there, right?
Exactly, we'd be picking up 3 parking spaces there.
So now, getting in will be from the easement in the back that we don't have an easement on,
Yeah, right there.
right?
Say that again?
So the new way of getting in is gonna be the easement off Lawrence Street, right?
Correct.
Which isn't on plan, and you don't have the easement, so, right?
Yeah.
So we need that on the plan too.
Right.
And that way you need the fire department to approve getting in and getting out. If they approved it here, and now that's being changed, they'd have to comment on the accessibility and how they feel they can get in and get out of there. So that's why when you submit the new plans, they have to go to all 7 department heads and back to us for the next meeting for comments. So those would be the main concerns, because as of now, on this plan here, you're telling us you're putting the parking on Andrew Street, you really have no way to get into your site. Because you don't have the easement that you picked up last week that you told us about, 2 weeks ago. You know, I mean, you've changed quite a bit of that, so that would all have to be on plan too. You know what I'm saying? You told us 2 weeks ago, you get an easement from the gentleman behind us.
Correct.
That's not on the plan.
Right, I didn't change, I didn't,
Put it on the
update
plan, right,
Basically, it just makes that same area just a 2-way road.
Yeah, but we need that on the plan.
You gotta show that.
Yeah, and the fire department has to approve it, right? So just saying it's on there, I mean, until you have the easement, shown it on the drawings, until you're coming in, then that changes getting in, it changes where you're changing your parking, it changes how you're reducing the buildings on Andrew Street, and showing how you're picking up all of the new additional parking. So all those have to be on the plan. First to sign off on the plan.
So I guess my question is, I understand updating the plan, having all the stuff on it, going back to the departments for comments, fire department for approval on the access. With all that stuff being satisfied, is the 45 units, the 44 in 1, is that something that the planning board would give me agreement on?
I wouldn't do it until I saw the new plan, to be honest with you, because I don't know what the other 7 departments are gonna tell us once you come with the new plan. If we tell you yes, then fire says, nope, they can't get in there. Nope, he didn't pick up the parking in the rear, he didn't pick the parking on the side. So, I mean, I'm not, it's a hypothetical, give you faith that we're gonna approve it if we come back and we get 7 departments giving us negative comments. So, it's difficult. I don't know what everybody else feels, but I mean, changing the whole plan, you're reducing units, you're picking up parking that's not on site. I mean, that really changes the concept. I think if, the parking's been the issue so far, and, if you're picking up the parking, then I think, more people have been talking about, ways to get around that. And then the other thing is, I know they mentioned the landscaping, but, we just can't say, if you do all that, you get the approval, because a lot of times.
All of the,
A lot of times when something that changes, it creates other comments from city staff that we could be totally unaware of until it comes back in.
And on the question specifically about the parking and the number of spaces and the thumbs up or thumbs down, the exact number, how many of these are 1-bedroom versus how many of these are 2-bedroom, I need to know that actual number, so I can do the math on how short you are and how short you are per each, just as I did up here. I need to have real numbers.
I mean, that number can be manipulated to satisfy whatever you would be looking for, really. I mean, there's enough space in the building to create more 1s or more 2s or vice versa. That could be, if you told me, I wouldn't want to see it above 50%, I'd easily be able to make it so it wasn't above 50%.
Right, I'm just saying that, I'm echoing
No,
the
I'll have
chairman's
it
point
labeled,
about.
I'll have it labeled on the plan, and I think that number of 50% to me makes the most sense.
I mean, if you just show parking that's labeled on the plan, if you don't have that agreement, then it doesn't mean anything to us.
No, I understand that.
Same with the easement, that all has to be on plan and some type of agreement, and then you gotta show us how you knock down the buildings in the front. So that's gonna change the whole concept. So,
The raising of the 689 of that building was already permitted with the townhouses.
yeah, but then your plan changed substantially, so you're really back to square one. Because you're not asking to do what was approved before. This is a complete change.
Yeah.
So it's not, if you wanna go and put in that was exactly as was approved before, you may.
No, I don't want to do that.
Then when you take, then that's off the table. Because now you can't have it both ways. You can't say, you approved this, but now I want something different. I want you to give me something different that you didn't approve before, and I want to go by the guidelines before, so. If you go by what's before, then you wouldn't have to be here, because you have to build it up exactly the way we approved it in the past.
I think all the changes that are going to be made are basically recommendations that came from the board.
Yeah. But I mean, the main thing, you have to show the agreements with the other people where you're picking up the parking and getting in and everything else, yeah. So,
Oh, that's-
so we don't know how much time you need. If you're looking for continuance, the board, we can act on that continuance tonight if you like.
Sure.
I don't know how much time you need to get all those plans up to date, speak with all the other people in the agreement for parking, get the easements on.
I'd be ready for the next meeting.
Mr.
June
Chairman,
1st?
That won't be a problem.
Mr. Chairman, there's one more point that I'd like to bring up.
Sure. I know you want a landscaping plan and everything else, yeah, I understand.
And I don't know why this didn't occur to me before in the review of this. The width of pavement you have here between your entrance on Andrews Street and the side of the building, you have those parallel spaces. Have you looked into end-in spaces as a way to get more parking?
There was a civil engineer who designed it. I basically left it up to him, but out there being the sides of the existing building there, we may be able to manipulate that space to create more parking within that space.
Yeah, it's just so it's clear, I'm talking about up here. Yes, where those are parallel spaces.
Yeah, no, I did look at that. It's close, because you need 17 feet to do
Yep.
end in, or on an angle, maybe it cuts down to 15 feet, but I really haven't done the math on that. That would actually create probably 9 more spaces to do it that way. It depends on the math and the distance that's left.
Sounds like you've got, to get ready to come before us again, a certain amount of redesigning and getting new plans looked into. Maybe that's something that can make some of your problems easier. Just something to think
Sure.
about.
Judy, how are we on the timetable? Do we need an extension from the applicant, or do we fall within it if we continue to the next meeting, June 1st?
Yes, there would be an extension.
Okay. So, okay.
And we need that written,
Yes.
written request for an
Yes, a written
extension from
request.
you.
Okay.
Somebody want to make a motion to continue?
Chairman, I'll make a motion that we continue the 685 to 689 Lawrence Street project until June 1st.
And sign the
Second.
waiver. Can we amend it, that have him sign the waiver for the time requirement that hasn't been satisfied? As a condition?
As a condition, to sign the waiver for the
Time.
extension.
Okay. That's,
Second that, Mr.
okay.
Yep.
So we have a motion on the floor to continue to June 1st with the condition. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, opposition, hearing none, so we'll be on for June 1st. Good luck, sir.
You still need the written request, right, for the?
Yep,
We do.
Judy will take care of that with you, yep.
Yeah, all right.
She can do the,
Right back.
yep. So the next matter will be Berry Road, so the applicant can set up for a minute while we're getting things ready.
Yeah, is this for packet walker? This? Thank you. plan views. What have we here? Is this Berry?
Matt,
Are these the Berry houses? These are, yes.
which one was that? Oh, did you speak with him already?
Oh, Jim here for Dean, I guess.
So the next matter on the agenda is definitive subdivision special permit for public hearing for 34 Berry Road. The Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing regarding the application by Landplex LLC on behalf of Timothy Grover for approval of definitive subdivision plan of a property located at the above address, which is approximately 140,000 square feet in area. The proposal includes demolition of the existing 9,500 square foot building and renovation of the existing 5,800 square foot building to be used as a tenement house on proposed Lot B. The project also includes subdivision of the property to create 4 additional lots, lots B2 through B5, for construction of 4 single-family residences. The proposal is also seeking special permit for reduced lot frontage for lots B2 and B3. The site is located in the suburban single-family district. May we have the case for the applicant, please?
Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, 549 Rogers Street, Lowell, representing Timothy Grover, who is the applicant. Also with me tonight is our project engineer, Matt Hammer. Also with is Dean Jenkins, who would be the contractor for the homes to be constructed. And since there seems to be a lot of concern about the Megan's house, which should be on Lot 1, I have Bill Garr and Chris Turner from Lowell House with us tonight that can explain the program. I gave you a handout earlier, which was a copy of the Articles of Organization for the Megan House Foundation, Inc., along with an outline of what the Megan House does. So you'll have that in your files. So we're before you tonight on an application for definitive subdivision approval for a 5-lot subdivision, along with a special permit for the reduction of lot frontage on 2 of the lots shown on that subdivision plan, all located at 34 Berry Road. I'm going to give a brief overview of the project and then turn it over to Matt Hammer, and then Chris and Bill can speak about the program. I think this board is familiar with this project because they were in on a preliminary proposal before. But at the present time, there are 2 structures on the house, on the property, one being a 2.5-story brick building, which contains approximately 58,000 square feet of land, which was the prior site of the Riverside School, which was a residential facility for adolescent boys with emotional and behavioral issues. Also on the property is a single-story modular building consisting of approximately 9,500 square feet, and it was previously used in conjunction with the Riverside School. The proposed project before you tonight is that we would retain the existing 2.5-story brick building on a separate lot which contains approximately 32,186 square feet to be used as Megan's house, which is a residential facility for adult women between the ages of 18 and 26 who suffer from either alcohol or substance abuse. Chris Tucker runs the present program, and she calls She at Home, and she will explain that program for this board. The facility can provide housing for up to 18 adult women. Megan's house will be serviced by a driveway coming off Berry Road and is a parking lot with 10 spaces. Since we have approximately 6,000 square feet of space in the building, and we need 600 square feet per, for each car, we have sufficient parking. So it does conform to zoning. Excuse me, I'm missing a piece here. As to the remainder of the parcel, the 9,500 square foot modular building will be demolished, and the remaining property will be divided into 4 lots. They'll range in sizes between 20,432 square feet to 25,273 square feet per lot, which is twice the required square footage. The applicant is proposing to construct 4 single-family homes on these lots. Each home would be 2.5 stories in height with a 2-car garage. There will also be an additional parking area located within the driveway to park 2 additional cars. All new homes will conform with the dimensional requirements of the City of Lowell zoning ordinance. We are asking for a special permit to reduce the frontage on lots 2 and 3 from the required frontage of 90 feet to 77 feet. There are only two other homes on Berry Road, and the requested reduction in frontage is similar to what's there today. As to Berry Road, it is a 40-foot right-of-way that has been in existence for many years. My client intends to repave the roadway in front of the proposed subdivision and to extend an additional 100 feet to service all lots. Also intends to install a new porous pavement drainage system along the roadway, similar to what this board approved over on Andrew Street. There will also be an emergency turnaround easement between lots 4 and 5 for emergency vehicles, and proper signage will be installed to make sure there's no parking within that turnaround easement. The roadway and related drainage and utility facilities will be maintained by a homeowners trust. And I provided the board with a proposed draft of the homeowners trust, which I think you all have. I think that the application submitted addresses all of the requirements for approval of a special permit, and we'll be glad to answer any questions that this board might have. I just want to point out that the driving force behind this project is Mr. Grover's sincere desire to establish a residential drug and alcohol treatment facility for adult women. He's already established the Megan House Foundation, Inc. as a Chapter 180 charitable corporation whose purpose is to provide training, counseling, and education and other support services for those adult women suffering from drug and alcohol abuse and addiction. We all know there's a serious problem in the city, and as recent as this weekend, we read about heroin addiction. So I think this is a facility that is very much needed in the city, and I would hope that this board would support this request. And it is also Mr. Grover's intention that all profits received from the sale of the homes to be constructed will be reinvested in Megan's House for All improvements. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt to go over the engineering, and then we have Chris who will explain the program that she presently runs for Lowell House.
Good evening, members of the board. As Mr. Flood indicated, Berry Road is here. It's a 40-foot right-of-way. I have this overview plan to show its proximity to West Meadow Road, which is here, and a cul-de-sac configuration subdivision behind the project, which is Mary Teresa Terrace and Patriot Way. This is a city-owned parcel here. This is the outline of the parcel here where the proposed lots are going to be. That backs up to a cul-de-sac on the other side of a stream called Chase Avenue. As Mr. Flood indicated, we have Berry Road with two existing structures. This is a 2.5-story brick building. This is a 1-story modular building. There's pavement that extends around the perimeter of the two buildings. And the proposal is to leave this 2.5-story building, remove the modular building, remove all the pavement around that modular building, and you'll see that we're proposing to restore that area here with vegetation to increase the vegetative buffer to the nearby stream, which is located at the bottom of the hill here, which is called Flag Meadow Brook. This existing paved area will also, we're proposing to provide an infiltration trench to pick up the drainage from that paved area. We're also proposing an infiltration trench along the entire up-gradient side of Berry Road that'll help intercept the overflow drainage which comes from the back of these parcels. And then we're proposing to put a porous pavement infiltration system along this side of Berry Road in order to accommodate the drainage on Berry Road, which currently there is none at this time. We've conducted subsurface testing. We have good sandy materials, so we're confident that this style of drainage mitigation is going to work great for the roadway improvements. These are the proposed 4 single-family dwellings. One of the comments came up during our preliminary meeting to come up with some different styles of housing. We have with us this evening 3 other styles of homes that we can put on the project, so we're not just committed to the one. I have copies of those if the board would like those. But here's one style. I can pass those out, or you can pass them around.
I see. These are all the same.
So we're able to mix up the different styles of homes along the road so they're all not just the same style home. We're proposing an emergency turnaround here. One of the comments that came back from the municipal review was to make sure we provide some additional signage and also to increase the length of the road, which we originally had proposed as 90 feet. And an additional 10 feet was requested, so we can most certainly do that. That was a recommendation from DPD. And we'll add that extra 10 feet here. We have an existing water main in front of the project, an existing sewer system, so we have all the utilities needed to provide those services. And we also have natural gas out on Berry Road as well. And I can answer any questions from the board if you need some.
Matt, I know you commented on some of the department comments that we had, so I think the first one you did was from planning staff, and you mentioned about the, add the 10 feet to the end of the street.
Yes, yep,
Okay, prior to that, I think one of them was, an easement has to be in place for emergency vehicles from lot 4 and 5. The fire
Yep.
department has to approve the emergency turnaround. And do you have any problems with that, and the location of the fire hydrant? I think we got something from the fire department on that as well.
yeah, we actually have a fire hydrant located in front of this 2.5-story building. We have a fire hydrant at the end of Patriot Way, and if we need to put an additional fire hydrant at the end of the roadway, we most certainly can do that.
One of the things the fire department said that they requested that accept the street to be, require the street be accepted by the city, so as to ensure the proper maintenance and plowing for the fire access. I know you started saying about the private way. Did you give it, what's your response to the public way that fire department requested?
Well, there's no way that it can be made a public way, Mr. Lanahan, because the remaining of the roadway is only 21 feet in width, and we wouldn't do that. But, I mean, we have a homeowners trust in place that will be able to handle that maintenance, and there'll be someone named in that trust that could be contacted if there's any problems.
I'll just, okay.
I mean, we've done it before, and I think it's been successful.
So at least it would be built to city standards, Dave? though, for
Yeah,
city
we
engineer.
built the
Okay.
city standards, right?
So that was one of the questions I have, okay. And then the other one, I think, that came out from,
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask
Sure.
a quick question?
Go ahead,
on that,
Jerry.
because I'm just confused. On the plan, it says a 40-foot wide pavement road. You indicated it's only 21 feet.
Paved. It's a 40-foot right-of-way.
That's not what it says wide, a private road. Okay, so you've got a 40-foot
Yep,
right-of-way, which is according to the standards
That's
of a
correct, yep.
public road.
Yep.
And so you could easily make the pavement width,
that's right, yep.
so everything's there to make it conforming.
We can
to
continue the
standards of
21
city.
feet down, keep it the same width.
I guess I missed the exchange. You've got 40-foot,
It's a 40-foot right-of-way
which is the standard for a city street,
for City Street, but I think you get 28 feet for a pavement.
and so why couldn't we make it 28?
Well, because you don't have it from West Meadow down, and that's not accepted. That's all private way up there. So I don't think the city would want to just accept the bottom of the roadway and not the top.
Now, can I just ask Judy, Mr. Chairman?
Sure,
just a quick
absolutely,
question on this? To Judy, on the plan, it says limit of city maintenance. So what is the status of Berry Road?
It's one of those, huh?
Sorry. My understanding was that it was accepted up to a point.
I could help answer that, if that's okay.
do you have any objection, Chairman?
Sure, no,
Yes.
Go ahead, Matt.
So, I got clarification from the city engineers department. So, Berry Road is maintained up until this point right now by the city. They plow it, they do all the regular maintenance to the roadway, and everything that's needed up until this point here. Within Berry Road, they've accepted the installation that was put in by the Applewood Construction Company for Patriot Way. I don't know if anyone recalls, but there's a new sewer line and a water line that's looped into Patriot Way, which is up here. The city has accepted the utilities that were installed within a private
Okay.
road, okay? So that's the status of the ownership of the city has of the utilities, and they maintain up until this point here. They have not accepted as a public way any part of Berry Road.
So, Mr. Chairman, if it's not an accepted street, the city will plow it. And basically, the city does not receive any Chapter 90 funds to maintain it, to repair it, to do any, to resurface it. So in that sense, it's not, when the city does accept a road, that's what they basically allows the city to accept money from the state to do the resurfacing of the road. They will do minimal maintenance. If there's, say, a pothole that gets reported, it'll be patched. It will be plowed for public safety reasons if it's not, if it's a private road. However, if it's a private road, it will not be resurfaced and repaired in that sense. So it sounds like in your conversations with Lisa, she told you specifically that it is plowed and that the utilities have been accepted, which means the separate departments will repair the sewer lines and the water lines. But again, the road is not on the list of accepted streets for receiving Chapter 90 funds for resurfacing.
And I would assume that trash pickup would also be included in the city also. That was just like Cadell Avenue that I had in front of the Board of Appeals, which is only 15 feet wide. And they did pick up the trash, and they did plow it, and they did sand it, but it's not an accepted street from the city.
And if I might add also, the fire department and the city engineer, Lisa DeMeo, did express their preference for it being accepted. And from my experience also in being in other towns, you know, you can set up a homeowners association, but anyone 10 years from now, 15 years from now can request from the city council that the street be accepted. Someone can always request that, whether it's in a homeowners association document or not. Someone can make a request, and then the city council then has to act on it. So if the street hasn't been built according to city standards, now the governing body is left with a question: shall we accept this infrastructure without it having been built to city standards? So when you build it to city standards, then the city normally would want to take the road and accept it so that they can receive the funds, again, the Chapter 90 funds for maintaining it.
Sure, Mitch, go ahead.
Judy, on that, what would be the difference between what's being proposed and making it meet the requirements for acceptance? For the amount of pavement?
Well, it sounds like the applicant is requesting a narrower width, which, you know, the planning board can waive. It's, you know, totally up to the board to waive standards, because they are subdivision standards that can be waived by the planning board. That's not a ZBA dimensional, it's not dimensional requirement. So, yeah, there's the width of the pavement. The applicant is, I haven't looked at the details of the plan, but there's, you know, the way the road is constructed, the subbase and all of that, and I'm sure all that is up to city standards. Mr. Flood just indicated that it was the width of the pavement that was not going to be to city standards. And I guess I might add also the, usually, and I have looked at Lowell subdivision standards, there's a turnaround or a cul-de-sac that's usually required, and that's part of the standards. So that would have to be waived in this instance, and a proper turnaround approved by the fire department. And again, the planning board can waive, you can waive the cul-de-sac and approve a hammerhead turnaround as long as that's approved by the fire department.
And I think on this point, Mr. Fischette, the houses on the right side are not serviced by this road. So that's why 21 feet would work. It's only on the left side of the roadway coming down. The houses on the right side are part of that subdivision, and they front on another street, so.
28 is the requirement?
I think it's 28 feet for a travel way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
City,
Yeah, 28 feet. And we don't know how the beginning of Berry Road was constructed. We have no idea. So we don't know whether that was constructed to city standards.
Okay. Anything else, madam, at this point? No? Mr. Flood, do you have anything else at this point in time?
Do you want me to address the Megan's house now, or do you want to wait till later?
Might as well do it now. Sure.
All right, Bill?
My name is Bill Garr. I'm the CEO of Lowell House. We've been in the Lowell community and Greater Lowell community for nearly 45 years. We provide addictions and recovery services and mental health services, and we serve about 2,000 area people per year. We have a broad range of programs right down here at 555 Merrimack. We have our clinical day programs. We have our structured outpatient addictions program, which is a 6-week program. We have our DAE programs for people that have DUIs, both first and second offenders. And we also have our, what did I forget, Chris? So we have a number of programs in that building. We also run 2 recovery homes, one over here on Appleton Street for 19 men and women. And we also have one in Tewksbury, which Chris is going to speak a little about. And that is a 40-bed women's program. We've been running it for about 17, 18 years now. 20? 27, wow, how time flies. 27 years, and Chris will talk about that. Chris has a tremendous amount of experience. We're very proud to have her. We have been serving women in that program, really ages 18 to women in their 80s. It is a New England-wide known program, even though predominantly we serve people from the Greater Lowell area. It runs quite well. We are here tonight because we have an opportunity to do something, I think, substantial for the Lowell community, for our daughters, for our wives, for our friends, for all the people that have addictions and recovery issues in this community. It is a growing problem, as I'm sure you've been reading, the problem about heroin, and we literally are up to the point now we have an overdose almost every day in the city. And this is not just the city, it's also all the surrounding communities. So we're here to try and establish what would be one of the rare, in really the state, of a private business and a private nonprofit partnership between Megan Foundation and Lowell House, which will serve approximately 15 women in the beginning. Chris will describe that, but I think it is a rare opportunity, and I think, again, it serves the people that we care about in this community, and hopefully we will have to find double the number of beds in treatment right now to serve the population that we currently need to serve. The Department of Public Health doesn't have that kind of opportunity. We're hoping that public-private partnerships can really lead to that process. So we're very proud of what we do. I'm going to introduce you to Chris Turner, who knows obviously a lot more about the programs than I do. So come on up, Chris. And by the way, Chris is our Director of Women's Residential Recovery.
Hi, I presently run and oversee the Glenishean program on the grounds of the Tewksbury Hospital, which is a program for women 18 plus. Our oldest graduate was 83 years old, wanting to get sober at 83. And we take women from the age of 18 onwards. They're allowed to be there. They're not necessarily mandated by court. They come there freely. They volunteer, they work, they go back to school, they become productive members of society, and they're self-sufficient by the time they leave. So the the Department of Public Health from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Bureau of Substance Abuse Services, has just put out a request for proposals for a new program for young women, which they call transitional youth, ages 18 to 25, figuring that they need some special services. Some more intense services. There'll be more staff at this program because of the age group. And when we were looking for a site to house this program, we were introduced to Tim, who was also in process of trying to do the same thing that we were. So it was an opportunity for us to come together to fulfill the same dream that we both had, I think. So the Megan House would house, it's proposed right now to house 15 young women, ages 18 to 25. They would be there after they had detoxed from drugs and alcohol. It's not a place where you go to detox, so they would not be there under the influence. They will be there after detoxing, at least, probably at least 30 days, maybe more than that. At the Sheehan program right now, we have a 3-month wait list. Somebody calls me for help, I interview them and say, sure, now you have to wait 3 months to get in. And unfortunately, some people are dying on that wait list. So we're here tonight to try, in an effort to locate more beds, 15 beds, in response to the governor's state of emergency for opiate addiction. And we'll be providing counseling, clinical case management, vocational services, educational services. And by the time these women would be graduating our program, like I said, they would be self-sufficient and working or going to school. And we would assist them to find permanent housing as they graduated from this program. If they were to relapse during the program, which I know is a concern for people, we would relocate them at that point either to a hospital detox, to the shelter, or back to a family member. But it's actually required by the Commonwealth that we don't just turn them out on the street, and we have no intentions of doing that. We would actually physically relocate them to the next place that they needed to be. So that's a quick overview, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Anything else from the applicant at this time, Attorney Flood?
Do you have any questions for me at this time? That's basically what we're proposing to do. I think it's a very beneficial program for the city of Lowell, and hopefully the board will feel the same way. Thank you.
Okay, anybody here this evening want to speak in favor of this project? In favor? Favor? In favor? Anybody want to speak in opposition?
I have a question.
Sure, just come to the microphone, please, and state your name and address for the record, if you would. Thank you.
I'm Deb Forgione, the chairman of the Pawtuckettville Citizen Council. I don't think I'm here for the left of the, for or against. I'm here to bring some concerns.
No, you can address that.
Okay, great. Okay, so what I'm here to do is, Deb Forgione, Pawtuckettville Citizen Council. We did have Tim Grover and his team come to our PCC meeting, and we had about 50 residents there. We flyered the neighborhood around. Because we have had a business there before, we've been through this preliminary before a program gets off the ground, and then once we have the program, then we have experience of some of the things that could be done better and the things that we already see that could be probably worked out now if they're a concern of the neighborhood. So we had about 50 people there, and so this past week and a half, I've talked to quite a few people from that meeting. I've gotten emails, and I've kind of condensed probably a handful of issues that if we could look at them now and maybe work with the applicant to see if there's anything that can be done about some of the concerns. So I think the first concern is not so much a concern, but hopeful that the board agrees with the fire department that that road should be accepted, and they gave a very good reason why for maintenance. It is a little confusing when you go from West Meadow down Berry Road, and we're told that the city hasn't accepted the street, but there's a lot of streets in Lowell that haven't been accepted yet. So I would say in the beginning of this program or this project, now's the time to make the road in the condition that the city could accept it. And maybe also at the same time, just like the fire department suggested, make it an approved road. And they gave, again, sound reasons why they feel that way. So I'm hoping that the board will see the wisdom of the fire department and maybe work towards that. Okay, and so with that said, a couple of other things have come up. So nothing pleases us more in Pawtuckettville than to see 4 more voters coming in. So we like that, and we'll have new residents. We welcome that. We welcome all new residents to Pawtuckettville. And one of the things that we can already see that might be some issues for people living on that street is 16 feet from the boundary for that home with the garage on the right, it is a business. They're going to have deliveries, dump trucks, staff, cars, visitors, and we're told it's a 24-hour-a-day operation. So I'm not sure on that plan if it looks like where the delivery trucks will go, where employee parking is, but if there's a house right next to it, 16 feet from that lot line, either maybe put the garage on the other side, because right now it looks like the houses are going to be sold first, so nobody really knows what that's going to operation look like. And we've been here before, we know that that operation works as a business, and there are some abutters that did hear the dump trucks and, you know, the car and the traffic. So now would be the time to address maybe the closeness of that one house that won't know exactly what to expect once that business moves in. So that's a concern there. People that live on Mary Teresa, one of the other things about that business that had been there before on Berry Road is the same things that we're talking about, the dump trucks, the deliveries, the visitors. If there could be maybe more greenery or trees along that side there to buff it from Mary Teresa, where it abuts it, so that they can have more privacy as well. And I think, let's see here. I'm going off my notes of people that have asked me to speak for them, so. Oh, at the meeting, again, because it's a business, 15 residents opposed to 27 residents. We were told that 27 residents would be there. So that's almost double the amount of cars for employees, and it would be more staff. So we're really not sure. You know, if it's 15, then you probably don't need as much parking, or you won't have as many deliveries, but we were told 27. And I believe that those are my notes, and I know we have other people who'd like to speak too, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Yeah, just come to the microphone and give us your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Kristen Rudolph, and I'm an abutter to this project at 89 Mary Teresa Terrace. And I just want to speak to some of the concerns that were just raised, and then some of the concerns of whether or not the road is currently being cared for completely by the city. I overlook the end where the Riverside School presently is. That's going to be taken down. The city does not plow past the metal gate and does not service past the metal gate where it was the Riverside School. They only come in up to that gate. Being a resident and having my property abut that, you know, you do have the noises from the trucks and the trash and the dumpsters. But something that concerns me also is the fire department's concerns. I know they said there was going to be a turnaround. Right now, there's technically more space because it's been vacant, and so there hasn't been cars there. But the fire trucks have come down the road. For whatever reason, they have come down the road. I can see them from my property struggling with their big trucks to turn around. So how are we going to address that and make that safe? And what could be placed as a buffer for privacy, for noise, and things like that. We had a great meeting on Saturday as far as the Megan's house goes. They answered a ton of our questions with regards to that. And so I know, for one, I'm very grateful that you did answer our questions, and it does seem like they run a good program. But I do have a question about the amount of residents, because it has been changing from 15, 18, and 27. So, that being said too, where are the visitors gonna park? Where are all the staff gonna park? The residents, I'm being told, are not gonna have cars. It seems to be in the best interest of the neighborhood if it is a public way. So how do we address that and make it a safe road for the fire department, make it, safe for the trash and plowing and there is probably going to be children in those homes. They need to be able to walk safely up and down the street to get to a bus stop, or however that's going to work for them. And I think it is in the best interest to make it city-approved now, rather than have it built and it's not in accordance, and then how do we deal with it? I think that's it.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Hamblett. I live at 495 Varnum Avenue. I'm co-chair of the Pawtucketville Citizens Council, and I support the project. I do have some questions. First of all, I'd like to say that after an hour and 15 minutes of questioning, it's good to see that Tim, Matt, and Dean survived, and actually had a good site meeting on Saturday where they invited the neighbors and handed out packets of information. They have done a lot of work since last time this group was in front of you, and have done a lot of work to answer our questions. I see there are a few more. I'm really here to just reiterate my concerns that we informally expressed when we looked at this about a month ago, I guess it was, Tim. And that is my perspective as someone who lives next to a group home. In fact, it was part of the same Riverside School, and they were transported by buses up to Riverside School. I live about 75 feet away, and the residents have never been a problem. They're all boys. They go out, they play basketball, they make a little noise. I would expect that of any neighbor. However, it's a business, and this is what I spoke to you about last month. The garbage trucks don't always come in after 7 o'clock. Sometimes we hear them at 6 and 6:30. There are usually 7 to 12 cars in the driveway, and often more, and there are only about 12 young men in the facility next to me. A month ago when we talked, we had talked about creating a little bit more of a buffer between what is the settlement house and the first residence, and so I'd be looking to hear from maybe Dean or Matt on what changes they've made to that original plan. And also, I would be very interested, now that we have someone who we know and trust is going to manage this operation successfully, to give us an estimate as to what the human traffic is in addition to the residents. Presumably it's going to be 24-hour care, 3 shifts, I don't know. How many people on each shift, how many contractors are expected during the day, how many delivery trucks, just so we have a fair expectation of what the activity level will be in what is going to be an active small business. And so that would be helpful information from Matt or Dean or from Tim. And those are my only comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Anybody else like to speak in regards to the project? Yeah, people within 1 second. Anybody else want to be heard? Anybody else? Yes.
Okay, as far as the
State
delivery...
your name again, please, if you would. Thank you.
Chris Turner. As far as deliveries are concerned, I run a 40-bed program right now, and once the program is established and the beds and things and the furniture has been delivered, then deliveries will be, basically it's our groceries. We do that by personal vehicles. At the program I'm at now, we rarely have a delivery unless it's copy paper, basically. So there's not going to be any very minimal delivery traffic as far as that's concerned. And the trash would be emptied once a week from a dumpster, probably. I also want to reiterate that it's not a group home. These are people whose primary diagnosis is substance abuse. They're just like me and every other person that's sitting in this room when they're not using drugs and alcohol. So once you take that away, you don't have the emotional and behavioral issues that you probably had with the boys' home that was there prior to this. Also, as far as the number of people, the grant that we're applying for from the Department of Public Health Bureau of Substance Abuse Services is for 15 beds. The program has a capability of having 27 beds, but we don't have any intention to do that at this time. This grant would be for a minimum of 3 years and with an opportunity for 2 years and 2 years. So it would be, if we were awarded this grant, it would be for 7 years with 15 beds.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Dean Jenkins, Genco LLC, I guess the general contractor for the job and overseeing some of the questions and so forth. Spoken to Mr. Patel about doing some buffering. We just haven't figured out what it might be yet, you know. Talked about creating some easements and so forth that will give him more of a buffering between his property. You know, I'm open to whatever suggestion he has as it relates to whether he'd want something from, you know, vegetation or something like that, or, you know, would he want a fence that, you know, currently is there as a chain link fence, and at the area of his pool and so forth, if he wanted to have something else installed, we could talk about that, but I think in general, we're looking to try to do some buffering at his property. The other part of the buffering on the other sides of the road, there's kind of a topography change, you know, large topography change there, and there's a lot of like dense, kind of viney-like stuff in some of the areas, you know. So in order to create the right buffering there, you know, I guess that's going to be more of a challenge for us, only because, you know, you think it's already pretty much a buffered state as it is. Although, you know, we could try to address something maybe down at the lower level of the street in that area where it becomes flat. If there's some areas that we could maybe put a couple of, you know, hardy type things in the way that would kind of help to create a little bit more of a buffer between. But that area is, there's a large topographical change from Mary Teresa to this property, this road. So that's a little more challenging. But again, we don't mind trying to add where we have to add. It's just that one there, I think maybe, you know, we talked to somebody as it relates to from DPD, or, you know, create a landscape design as part of the package to include a couple of, you know, extra, you know, small trees that might mature over time. So, and then, let's see. That's it.
Dean, it looks like you tried to pick up some buffer green space compared from the building to building number 2.
Yes.
I mean, I think in the plan you have some trees there, some green area. I know they talked about it was 16 feet to the right, but it looks like you have some green space there and landscaping you propose to do to break up a buffer zone a little bit to the neighbor to the right, being lot number 2?
We do, yeah. I mean, we want to create a buffer zone there that we want to try to separate the entity itself, you know, and let the privacy that's demanded by, I guess, both parties, and important for both parties, be, you know, done with some sort of buffering in between, you know. And again, we're trying to sell, you know, some very expensive homes on a cul-de-sac street. We are confident in what we're doing. We're confident it's going to happen, and that, you know, the program that we're going to run is going to be one that the neighbors that are just abut it right there are going to be proud to be a part of, and see in their community and right on their street. But we also are aware of the fact that just general neighborly stuff to try to create some buffers is the right move.
And it looks like that all your parking for the brick building there will be in the rear, and the driveway is to the left where they come in?
It is.
So you have plenty of parking in the rear there?
Plenty
I know it's
there's
pretty wide
plenty-
open right now, but it's,
There's plenty of parking there. I mean, there's an
I know it's wide
exorbitant
open, I
amount
mean,
of.
just, I know you're gonna
Yeah,
strike
there's
it in,
an
but as of now,
exorbitant
it's-
amount of parking at that location, and, you know, we have an overflow, which is good, but one of the things that's important about this program and what we're talking about, and I think we should address like the 27 versus the 15 and all that. I think what we did, you know, being, you once we got really into it and realized, it would be smart for us, we have good intentions, we're trying to create, a foundation moving forward. We're kind of more in the money-raising part of it, where we have good ideas and so forth, but the nuts and bolts and the actual day-to-day operations, we want to leave to the professionals. That's why we got in contact with the people at the Lowell House, and, once we got starting to talk to them, we knew that that was the way for us to go. Let us stick toward trying to, raise funds for this important issue and kind of get the Megan Foundation moving in different areas to doing different things and involving everybody in the community. That's part of what our goal is. We're going to let the professionals run the Megan House. But as it relates to the building, what we did originally was we had a kind of a state person come in and kind of give us, for the size of the building, the amount of space that was there, the amount of bathrooms that were in the building, how many people could we fit in there, successfully. And there's a formula for it, and the formula spit out 27 beds. So in our case, we kind of had it in our head, okay, it's going to be 27 beds or something along those lines. Then we spoke to Chris and the people and Bill at the Lowell House, and kind of looked at the amount of people and thought maybe, we would still try to talk about 27 just in case that was, important for us to fill it up. But we thought in the beginning, and as part of it, we would try to have the numbers reduced down to 15. They feel like the program works best for them on a building this size for what they're trying to accomplish in the smaller amounts. We didn't know what to do other than to say, like, we're listening to them. So if they think that, for right now, in order to get this approved and move forward with what we have, if we had some limit that was below the 27, we would be interested in doing it, but we would want to have, the ability to come back in front of this board or whatever board was necessary, and with the neighbors' consent, to be able to increase that if we felt like we were doing a good job and it was necessary for us to do it. So we don't want to leave that out. We don't want to say, okay, we want to limit ourselves to 15, because frankly, we're going by the state guidelines, and they say they can fit 27 beds in there comfortably. So, we kind of want to keep that part of it open, but we make a solemn, pledge in writing to the members of the board and to the neighbors that for right now, during the beginning phases of this program, I don't think we should say that we're going to be any more than, like, say 16, because you never know, there might be an extra one. But for right now, we would stay within that confines of that. Yeah. So Matt's handing out and I guess, I don't know if you guys got it on Saturday. My son graduated from college on Saturday, so I wasn't at the meeting. But he's handing out kind of the layout of the beds in that brick building. So for the board members. But I guess, we can talk about the amount of people in there. Obviously, we're not going to do 27 at the start of this program. We want to make sure we committed to making sure that the neighborhood was part of the process. We are still committed to that, and we want to make sure that, what we say we do. So we're willing to do the baby steps part of it, have our things reviewed over time and be held to the task of the Pawtuckaville Neighborhood Council, and also, the neighbors that are directly around us. We intend to be good neighbors, and that's that. So, as it comes down to the 27, we'd like to keep it, but I don't think we're going to go any more than 15 right now.
Thank you.
I think that plan shows 18 beds, that's where I get the figure of.
Yeah, I think in your presentation, you indicated that the start was
18 beds. Yeah.
adult women.
That would be the maximum.
Between the ages of 18 to 26.
As far as the turnaround concerned, I was, I only got involved in this last week because I'd been away, but I was under the impression that the fire department approved that turnaround as long as we post appropriate signs that it's a turnaround for fire, emergency turnaround only, no parking in that area. That's my understanding. As far as accepting the road, I think that's a very difficult thing to do because of the beginning of Berry Road. How can we do that? This is 21 feet. You approved the one on, the driveways on Andrew Street, that's 18 feet, so it's very similar. There's only 4 houses. And we have every intention of maintaining it properly. I don't know how, I mean, we can build it to city standards, the 21-foot travelway, and we can petition the city to accept it, but I'm not so sure they'll do it. Yes, and as Matt pointed out, it was only the fire department that mentioned that, not the engineering department, but,
Well, we got an email from engineering today.
what?
We got a brief email from engineering today.
You got a new one?
Yeah, it was an email. Let's see if I can find it for you. Okay. This is from Lisa DeMayo, dated today, 7:48 a.m. I'm still not sure I like the idea of allowing a private road. The HOA, which would be the homeowners association, covers most of it. In the termination clause, they say the planning board has the right to sign off on any changes of the HOA. I guess that could be okay. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of standard that we've used in the past. We can't get rid of it without your okay, so it's got to be there. And, you know, I think we're talking homes in upper, what, 400,000? Very expensive homes, so I think the owners will want to make sure that roadway is maintained. But this is new. I mean, I don't know how you handle it where the beginning of that roadway has never been accepted by the city. And Mr. Patel, how many years you lived there?
I lived there almost 35 years now.
Yeah, 35.
But my understanding was that.
could you just put the microphone
Why don't you
circle and
come
not
up
picking
here,
up?
Mr. Patel? Come up here, Mr. Patel. Yeah, come up here.
Yeah, you can that way we can hear you better. Thank you.
Please.
Yeah.
Come here and speak.
Yes, my name is Praveen Patel, and I am betting this property they're talking about developing in Megan's house. And I am living in that house since 1979. And I bought that house from Mr. Doug Solomon. And Doug Solomon was former assistant superintendent of school in Lowell. And that house was built because the said old building 34 Barry Road was a school nursery then, and it was only a daytime operation that time. Then when it got sold to Riverside School, they didn't have to go through all city laws, means they have to follow some city laws, but not the permitting and all that, or planning board thing, because it was state. It has something to do with the state, I don't know. And since they came there, it was nothing but the problem. Police was there every day. Fire brigade was every other day, something like that. And that's the problem I have now. I'm living that street. There are only 3 houses on that street. I own 2 houses and one other house owned by Mr. Late across my house. And the problem is they say that Barry Road is 30 or 40 feet, but reality-wise it was not a 40 feet, because if say the property line of both sides of the property at West Meadow Road, it comes less around 20, 21 feet. So I don't know where they got that 40 feet idea. And the reason they got that, because when Endmore Real Estate gave the deed to 30 Barry Road and 31 Barry Road, they give both of them 20 feet of right of way. So they're counting 20 feet my right of way and 20 feet Mr. Late's right of way, counting both 20 feet, they're counting 40 feet. And that's a problem from day one. But if you take a survey of that, it's not a 40 feet. And I don't know how I can find out exactly how much is that. So only my question is that, even if they start Megan House, it works fine, no problem, it's for the public good. But still, if they get into that and they
come into trouble financially or anything else, what they're going to do about it. Because it's a still single-family zoning area. So slowly and slowly, the thing is changing there since I came. That's only my concern is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to point out too, I told Mr. Patel, they're going to buff between Megan's house and his property, and also we're going to give him an easement to maintain his existing swimming pool that comes onto our property. So he wanted to be sure of that. So. But to answer his question, if it ran out of money and it couldn't operate, then it'd have to probably be torn down. A single-family house would probably have to be built. But right now, it's a nonprofit educational corporation, and I think it has a right to operate. So, but I don't know how you address the issue of an acceptance of Berry Road. I've never come across that in 43 years of practicing law. Like I said, we're willing to build it to city standards, and we're willing to petition the city to try to accept it, but I don't know whether we'll have any success.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Sure. Mr. Fischett, go ahead.
Mr. Flood, if, a couple of things I'd like to go over, because you're before us for definitive subdivision approval and a special permit. The special permit is with a reduced
Frontage.
frontage.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
that,
okay.
that is, we have so many plans on the table. That is page 34, section 5.1.17 of city zoning ordinance. Now, you did provide some, I won't say plans, but some renderings of some of the homes that you're considering for the site. However, based on the requirement of the special permit, we are required to, plans should have been submitted to Planning and Development, and then comments should have been provided to us prior to making this decision, or we've got 45 calendar days following the termination of the public hearing. There's several things to consider, and you know the history of that special permit.
I do.
Is to allow the board to review how the potential of the proposed home is going to sit on the site as a result of a home that was put in an A&R, on an A&R lot, and it was a reaction to that change. And more or less, the spirit of it was, it's 90 feet now, my understanding that you can go back and reduce it to the original frontage. However, we want to control how it looks, how it sits on the lot. And a good example is what you've provided on here. The home that's closest to the facility has the parking, the driveway and the parking garage on the opposite side of the facility. You would think to create a buffer for the residents there, you would put the parking garage on the side of the home. And that's the purpose of really having this in advance, having DPD provide comments to the board, also the materials that will be used as it fits into the neighborhood. So appreciate you providing that this evening. However, we don't have any comments from DPD and it hasn't been reviewed. But obviously that's very important. And then also, that's where we would take into consideration the buffer from the facility. And so from that perspective, I think I certainly would want to have some comments from DPD. I have a preference for this home, by the way. I think this is a nice design, and that would provide the buffer for that first home that abuts the project. Now, also on the definitive subdivision approval, under the city's subdivision land regulations, the purpose of a subdivision control law has been, I'm just going to read it, enacted for the purpose of protecting the safety, convenience, and welfare of the inhabitants of Lowell by regulating the laying out and construction of ways and subdivisions, and by designated standards for sanitary conditions in subdivisions in certain cases in parks and open areas. So the way I understand this at the moment, now, when you turn on the Berry Road, there are what we call, I guess, nature's speed bumps at the beginning of that road. It's in terrible shape. The way it sits right now, who would repair that?
Who would what?
Who would repair that?
I don't know.
I mean, we have a problem. So now we want to develop 4 homes for $400,000.
Yeah.
We've got a project going in there that, quite frankly, by the way, is not what's before us this evening. I mean, that's not.
No, I know that. It's just the subdivision.
And,
Waiver.
but obviously, I'm assuming some of these residents are going to have cars as well. And there will
hope so.
be the people that work there, staff as well, traveling the road. And I just am at a loss as to the status of Berry Road at the moment, because we have recommendations and comments from
West Meadow,
DPD.
we own that in Feeder, West Meadow.
And DPD
don't say that.
says emergency easement, I'm sorry, this is from the engineering department. And what their concerns are is the turnaround, the emergency turnaround, and that's from the engineering department. We have from the fire department where they say, I'm assuming by the mere fact that they're mentioning to have signs, that they're somehow approving the turnaround just subject to the signs.
That was my assumption.
It would appear that that's what they're
Yeah.
saying. The staff comments from DPD is the applicant is proposing extension of Berry Road as a private road. It is recommended that the road be built to the standards set by the city engineering department. In the event the city may have to accept the street in future, as in the case of many other private roads in that area. It is recommended that street profile information be provided. Also, an easement has to be placed for emergency vehicles access to lot B4, B5. The fire department has to approve the emergency turnaround for the fire trucks and location of fire hydrants. I'm assuming DPD had not seen the comments, Judy, from the fire department at that time, or is that even taken into account with the comments? It was kind of an ambiguous comment, I thought, from the fire department.
Yeah, I think the DPD comments reflect the fact that we feel we need more comment back from the fire department and an actual confirmation from them that they do accept this turnaround as it's proposed, or is there something else that they prefer?
Right, because it clearly spells out in the city's subdivision regulations, and it lays out a cul-de-sac for every one of those situations.
Well, is it cul-de-sac or a T? I
In
don't know what it says.
subdivision regulation I was looking at, it's cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac.
So, again, that's what's before us this evening,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I understand the program, but it's not the board making a decision on the program, it's the board's approving the subdivision.
Absolutely, that's what's here tonight,
And
right.
the reduction of the lot line. So, again, I clearly would want more clarification on the roadway, the status of the roadway. I think we have to take into account pedestrian safety as well. I'm assuming then, it's one or the other. If some of these residents will not be having cars, because when I mentioned they're having cars, I think I saw a lot of heads bobbing no. So if that's the case, I'm assuming they'll be walking. And also, if residents, and these are fairly substantial homes being built, I'm assuming they're going to be families moving in there, and there's going to be children. I'm assuming they're going to be walking. So what are the standards of the road? And then, walking to West Meadow Road, and then, walking to different locations within the neighborhood.
As far as the residents are concerned, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, that they get bussed out when they have to go someplace, or there's a van that takes the residents out. So they'd have transportation. But there are gonna be 4 homes, and I know what you're saying, but,
Sure, no, I understand. I would like, and I understand it's, I believe the process is for the city council to accept a roadway, but I think if recommendations from the engineering department would be that the road meets the standard, it would certainly make it a lot easier for city council to make that decision. So
Right.
for myself personally, I would like to see further communication with the city engineers department as to what would have to happen with the roadway in order for at least to get a recommendation from the engineering department.
Yeah, we definitely need to talk to the city engineer about the issue that Mr. Flood is presenting, which is, you know, the current existing Berry Road. And as you stated, it's not in good condition. It hasn't been accepted as a city street, so what do we do about that part? How do we get that accepted as a city street? And also, how do we, you know, integrate a whole new extension of it and get it accepted if it's only going to be a certain width? So, and yes, I would assume the city council would go by the recommendations of the city engineer. So we need to get a clarification from her as to whether, you know, coming forward to the planning board, yes, a 20-foot or 21 feet wide pavement would be fine for me, and she would recommend that to the city council or not.
And again, those were roadways, similar roadways approved at River's Edge. I mean, those are designs
Right.
that are approved by the city. And quite frankly, again, getting into traffic engineering philosophy is that it helps to actually keep the speeds down of the cars on the road. So it actually has a calming effect and a mitigating effect. So from that perspective, I think that needs to be looked at. And again, I appreciate having the designs of the homes presented to us this evening. I would like to get comments from staff as required by the city's zoning ordinance, and then I think we could make an informed decision on the subdivision request approval, as well as the special permit. Those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Any other board members have any comments at this time? Mr. Lockhart?
Yeah, I agree with what Jerry has stated wholeheartedly. You can't develop this road without understanding who owns it, I mean, who's going to maintain it, and bring it up to standards.
Well, maybe if we extend it, Mr. Lockhart, the city will maintain it like they do the other end. I mean, I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer to that.
I can't go any further without understanding more about the road, and as well as the turnaround, and if the fire department has seen it, do we have documentation to that effect? We need to see that. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I'm surprised because they usually would say whether they approved it or not, but I assume
and this
where they said
design
put
would,
up signs,
you know,
that's fine.
So, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Those are the two big issues here, I think.
Rich, you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I notice at the far end of the street, it appears that that's city land. Would there be any possibility of creating a culvert, getting an easement from the city to create a cul-de-sac? Is that feasible?
Is that wetlands? That actually could be feasible. I just wanted to bring some, you know, kind of bring you to how we got to this plan to begin with. We met with DPD as well as the city engineer. Essentially, we have a private road called Berry Road. And in some towns, you would go and prepare a street improvement plan in order to further improve a roadway in order to provide more frontage for additional lots. And that would be facilitated through a street improvement plan with a comment from the planning board themselves. Lowell does not have that process. So what was determined is that we would go through that process through the definitive subdivision application in order to facilitate what was at the time simply a street improvement plan. During that meeting, we looked at addressing public safety, and that's where we came up with the T turnaround. So the T turnaround was always something that was originally proposed We thought about doing it at the end of the street, but we decided that it would be better suited to be done between the two parcels where we have it proposed. We were able to run vehicle software to show how the fire truck can maneuver into the T turnaround and then exit out of the roadway. So that's where the T turnaround came into place. The Berry Road itself, when we had the discussion, initially thought that it would be better for it to remain private and to be maintained by a homeowners association in order to take the burden away from the city from having to deal with the long-term maintenance of Berry Road. So that's where we came up with the homeowners association and to leave it as a private way in order to facilitate the maintenance of the roadway itself.
Matt, can you clarify that? Because are you talking about the homeowners association then would take over the maintenance of the entire stretch of road, or just from?
Just from where it was, the city had stopped maintaining it up until the gate section.
So for plowing purposes, what happens if their truck shows up before the city truck shows up? The city truck piles it up at the end, and then the
Well,
other
that's
truck
something that would
comes?
be coordinated with the DPW, to let them know that they do not have to maintain the entirety of Berry Road.
Okay, that's a difficult task, but I just understand what you're explaining.
But that's how, I just wanted to give you some history as to, we thought it was a positive thing to have Berry Road remain private on our section to take that burden away from the city.
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead, Mitch.
One other thing.
You have the floor. Yep.
As a, would it be, Mr. Chairman, I ask you this question, would it be appropriate for us to offer a condition as to the maximum number of beds to be allowed, or is that within our purview?
15.
I think what the applicants proposed is they would do so many, if they wanted to add more, they would come back and ask for approval. If that was the case, we could do conditional.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
Condition it to 15.
I mean, at least the one thing we do know is that the size of the building will not be changed, because that's existing.
Right.
So, and the egress getting in, I mean, the ingress and egress would all be maintained the same. But if they said they'd have no problem with putting a conditional amount of beds for the time being, that we thought that we could do. Yes, Rich? Yep.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Boyle, Bob will go, Bob first?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why can't the road extend to Patriot Way, which is a public way?
To Matt?
No, we would not be doing that. This actually goes up in grade.
Now, I'm asking the question, why couldn't you do that?
Well, we'd have to go on to City of Lowell property, first of all.
Which is not a problem, because the city is part of this process.
And then we would be tapping into all that traffic that would be generated with all the cul-de-sacs now through Berry Road as well. So it was never considered as something with any of the discussions we had. But Mr. Frechette, I did want to add that we have provided plans and profiles of the entire roadway, as well as all the drainage mitigation for the roadway. So we've always been taking into account that we've always wanted to help mitigate drainage or do anything that's needed within Berry Road that would be any recommendation from the meetings that we've had with engineering. So.
Bob, back to you.
Yeah, I still would rather see the new road that is being constructed to meet city standards. So, 70% of the road would be new, and the 30% of whoever owns that property, it shows here 41%, 41-foot width opening from West Meadow Road, and it goes up to, you can't really read it. But you have a 40-foot right-of-way. You may have a narrower paved surface, but you still have the 40-foot plus requirement. And why can't that road be paved, widened and paved? So you'd have 100% road that would be acceptable to the city.
Yeah, there's also
another topographic, limitation as you're going down Berry Road on the right-hand side. It goes up fairly steeply on the right-hand side. So to provide a road wider would also start to cut into the properties that are on the back side of Mary Teresa Drive as well. So that would be an additional engineering feat that we would need to do in order to facilitate that as a full accepted roadway. But again, when our initial discussions with the city was to basically provide the plan that we have provided. That's why the comments are very limited in terms of those other improvements that would be required.
I would rather see 70% of the stretch, the new road, meet city standards and deal with the front of Berry at a future date by someone. I mean, in my career, I've seen this case where new subdivisions like this come off of old substandard roads. And the new piece is always meeting city or town standards. It's a subdivision.
That's true. That's true. But that's when you're coming off another public way. I mean, we did it on Westview Road. At the end of Westview Road, we extended it to serve those lots at the end of Westview Road. But Westview Road is an accepted street, but it's only like 18 feet, and then the trees on the side of it. In that situation, but we've got, the beginning of this is not accepted, it's private.
All right, but I have a question for the Stewart attorney. What gives you the right to cross that private way to get to your property?
He has.
It's not accepted.
No, you have the right. It's, everyone down at the end.
How do you have the right?
Everyone has the right to pass and repass their own property down at that end. Sure, they can't stop us from going down there.
So someone would have the right to pass your private way too?
Anyone at the end would, yes, if there was another, City of Lowell would because they own the property at the end. But you can't block off someone's right to get to their property. And
So it is a public way of sort.
I wish it was. I wish it was, then we wouldn't have this discussion tonight.
If
But
that's the City of Lowell's determination.
But the city maintains it. I didn't know there were speed bumps there, and that surprises me that the city would.
Potholes. No.
Potholes.
Yeah, potholes.
What?
Oh,
potholes.
The
what? And what width? 21 feet?
Counselor, the point that I was making and the concern that I have is the condition of that road is atrocious at the beginning of it. And what we've established is that if you're not responsible for it, and the city's not responsible for it, and we're gonna continue development on the back end of this, something has to be done to address that.
Well,
That's the point, Counselor.
I just get someone tapped me on the shoulder and said that they would repave the existing Berry Road down to West Meadow. Same width, but they will repave it. They will clean it up.
That's a start.
Yeah. It's a big start, but they're willing to do that.
Bob, do you have anything else?
I just can't see why this road can't be extended to Patriot Way. With four cars are not gonna make it, 4 houses are not gonna make a difference on the delivery of traffic.
Besides the city property that's there to the left, there's also private property that comes down into a like kind of pie shape. That's a couple of people that live on Patriot Road there. So, and also there's such a topography change from the top of Patriot Road to where we are, particularly to the left-hand side, and you get closer and closer to the wetlands that way. You're not going to be able to cut that in effectively and connect those two roads without a huge, huge change in topography right there from top to bottom, probably 20 feet plus, more, 30 feet, 25 feet anyway, in terms of topography change. So now you're gonna create a cut through.
Even
That's something
the
that doesn't
idea
work.
of a cul-de-sac on the city-owned property would still be a problem because of the grade change.
Correct.
The end of the road, is there a grade change at the end of the road?
There's a grade change. I mean, it's a huge grade change. The whole left-hand side is all over. So, I mean, our thing was, we would like to take the existing Berry Road, as the neighbors are currently trying to work with. We will tear that road up, you know, in terms of, to remove the top or overlay, depending on the pleasure of the board, okay? We want to try to maintain exactly what the drainage is doing right now there. So, you know, maybe, I mean, I'll let Matt try to figure that part of it out, but the substance of it is that we will take the existing road that's there now, the existing right-of-way that's not in great shape. We want to sell the houses there. We want to make sure that everybody can, you know, has the right thing coming into their property, leading into this. And guess what? We're going to be probably bringing, you know, the heavy trucks in for the next year, building houses there. So that's going to make that road a little more difficult to maintain for us anyway. We don't want to have people coming back to us. So why don't we just decide that we will pave that road, you know, with new pavement to this, you know, the standard that we can make it for that location and keep it the same width that we have it. So that's what we'd like to do, if we can.
So on that note, it'd be easier for the city to accept it, right?
It would be easier at that point, but I guess what we'd ask for is that we, you know, can do our natural stream of business, create the homeowners association. I will point out that that's what the city engineer has recommended as part of it. So the city engineer has recommended that part of it. So, you know, everybody, there's different hats all around, right? So we're trying to please a lot of masters. But I guess the one thing we would do is if we don't have an accepted street now, we have an accepted homeowners association, we pave the road up to that, you know, that's all the way through. The front part is now, you know, being maintained by the city. Hopefully they will continue all the way through and maintain us, but we will have created a homeowners association that will handle at least our part of the problem, and then we will, as a part of our approval here, go in front of the city council and see if they'll accept us as a street. It helps our 4 houses and it helps our 5th unit too. So, you know, there's a burden of a homeowners association for that, and if the city would accept it, we'd be more than happy to turn it over to them. But we'd ask this board to you know, waive the width requirements because we're existing, and the recommendation of its own engineering department was to, you know, kind of create a homeowners association. So that's what we're asking.
That's my recollection. That's why I created that homeowners trust, because that was in the first recommendation from the city engineer. And I would assume, but I can't speak for the city engineer, if we do dig up the old road and repave and build a new road, the city engineer is going to be up there watching what we do. And that's the process you've got to go through. The city has to, you know, state that it's built to city standards, and the city engineer would then have to approve it, because the city council is not going to accept it without the approval of the city engineer. We'd have to draw up a description and then convey it to the city of Lowell. But I think that's a viable alternative. Like I said, the city engineer was the one that requested the homeowners trust. It was the fire department that I think talked about the acceptance. So. Okay?
Mr. Boyle?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As this goes forward, I wonder if it might be worth looking into talking to the existing residents on Berry Road about incorporating them, if they would be interested in being incorporated into the homeowners association, so that it is also providing a longer-term maintenance solution for that length of Berry Road, for the length outside the project. I don't know, maybe something to work out.
Why would they want to pay for something they don't pay for now?
Because then they
I don't think that would work. They're getting a new roadway. I don't think that would work. They don't want to spend any more money.
Yes, you're supposed, yeah, yes. Now that you've given them the carrot.
Good idea, though.
Sir? This, certainly.
I'm living there for 35 years. City is plowing the road, I have no problem. Now why I should join somebody else's union and pay monthly dues?
Yeah.
While I'm paying enough taxes on my both houses.
I was thinking about the condition of the pavement and having some sort of entity in place that would, over the long term, maintain that length of road so it doesn't go
Yeah,
back
but-
to being what it is now.
But I never had a problem for last 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's the history.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would think what we do is finish, if you approve this and we do the whole roadway, then we get everyone on the street that lives there, now that's complete, to petition the city council to accept that roadway.
Okay.
And I would think that with this, there aren't many people, there aren't many homes there, so, you know.
Are you talking about, now, reconstructing the roadway to city standards? Are you talking about the, going for the full 28-foot width, or
No.
about asking us for a waiver?
The construction standards.
The
We're asking for a
construction
waiver
standards.
on the width, yeah. We're going to continue the existing 21-foot width right straight down.
Yeah, that, I don't know if I'm off on my own here, but I don't think that adding 7 more feet of paved width would necessarily be the best idea. All that much additional impervious surface and whatnot, right next to this stream, right next to these wetlands, in order to meet the traffic demand of 4 units. Remember, the units are only on one side of the street. There's nothing, there's nothing across the street from these houses. I think that if they came in for an application for a waiver on that width, I think a pretty good case could be made that we don't need the full 28 feet. Oh, and where it's a dead end and it's not a through street, so there wouldn't be any traffic from elsewhere, this one might make some sense on. Matt, could you please walk me through the utilities in the street? Did I hear there's already a water line and a sewer line that go down the street and then hook into Patriot Way?
So what we have, we actually have 2 water lines in Berry Road. There's a 6-inch
Existing?
line, an existing 6-inch line that goes up to 34 Berry Road, and it terminates with a hydrant. There's a relatively new, within the last 10 years, installed 8-inch main that loops from West Meadow Drive all the way to Patriot Way, which was a condition of the definitive subdivision approval for Patriot Way. There's an existing sewer within the entire length of Berry Way that also connects to Patriot Way, and that's where the sewer from Patriot Way travels through that sewer and then goes downstream towards West Meadow. There's an existing gas main as well within Berry Road that was installed. All of those roads were all updated with gas mains recently.
And your 4 new houses would tap into that 8-inch main that's already looped?
That's correct. One of the conditions was to loop that 6-inch line back into the 8 so that the 6 inches looped into the 8-inch main, which we'll most certainly do.
And so that would just be like a 10 or 12-foot piece to connect the 2 parallel pieces?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I understand now. Okay. Big thing for me is the design of the houses. I believe was it Jerry's idea about the driveway and the garage going next to the institutional, building instead of on the opposite side. I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah.
I like the idea of coming up with some different designs. I think Jerry's quite right about this being the most appealing one, and what makes it particularly appealing is that it has a full-depth, usable front porch, which is always very important when you're building new homes. At an earlier meeting, what I said, I questioned the decision to have the houses be wide and shallow on the lot as opposed to going back deeper. Now that I think about this, what having them this way does is it allows you to pull them as far as possible away from the wetlands,
That's right.
right? That's a good idea. And given that they are lined up like that, their sides are facing each other like that, they are going to be relatively close. The decision not to have windows on the sides is certainly more defensible. One thing I noticed, it's great you're doing, I want to ask some more about the restoration of the area, vegetated area restoring. What's going on there?
So if you notice on the existing conditions plan to the left, there's all that pavement in the rear and obviously along the side and in the front. All of that pavement will be removed. In the area in the rear will be revegetated, and it will increase the buffer from the stream.
Revegetated how and with what?
It's just going to be revegetated with seed mix, and then just naturally what will occur after the primary succession and then the second.
Okay.
So we're going to be going through the Conservation Commission.
So revegetated doesn't mean lawn?
What's that?
Revegetated
That does not mean lawn,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
So we're limited in the amount of disturbance because of the riparian zone to the stream.
Well, that is a positive good to remove that pavement and to revegetate it. It's very nice asset for the people who live there, very good from a public policy perspective. The one thing I noticed is that you have, on this plan, your hay bale line is the front of that area to be revegetated. Shouldn't that be at the back? You're gonna have an area where you're working and disturbing, you're gonna have exposed soils, where you take up the pavement, shouldn't you have the hay bales?
Yeah, we'll make sure that there's a siltation mitigation for the construction of removing that asphalt.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, I was just looking at your, the page here where you show your graded plan. The hay bales are along the front of the area you're restoring, and that they should be back towards the rear of the area you're restoring. I would think. Okay, yeah, what to do about the pavement, those utilities in the street, and the vegetation there. Okay, one last thing. Also on the theme of the buffer between the institutional use and the next residential building, I noticed there's a walkway that you show on your plan. It's almost right up against the property line.
Yep.
Is that an existing condition? Anyway, I don't really...
It actually is an existing condition.
It is an existing condition, okay. All right, I was just thinking that having that walkway be closer to the building would give you a little more room for buffering.
We most certainly could do that. We could move that walkway. We're also going to be doing some minor improvements relating to handicap access. So some of those areas could be altered between now and the actual construction of the building.
Okay, so I think when this plan comes back, we're going to be wanting to see how you handle that question of providing some kind of buffer there. That's, one direction you might want to go in. But we'll see what you come up with.
Sure.
I'm sure it'll be great. This issue that came up earlier about deliveries and truck deliveries, the butters talk about that trucks were accessing the site before, and the applicant, actually the ultimate user mentioned that, said that they would not be having, they don't generally get deliveries. would the applicant have a problem with a condition limiting truck deliveries, limiting the size of trucks that would be providing deliveries?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine, okay. Okay, that is all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, miss, you can come to the front.
I'm kind of all over the place, I guess, now at this point. So my concern is, they were correct in speaking, the property, so I'm in a butter from Mary Teresa Terrace. My property from when they built Independence and Freedom and that was Applewood or whoever the developer was at that time, we were told our property wasn't going to be touched. That was false. I lost a lot of land. It is now, my land was not like this all the time. And what, Dean, you spoke about all the vines and whatnot, that just sort of kind of happened. It wasn't like that. There were trees, there were bushes. They're not there anymore because of what originally happened from the original developer coming in. So their, solution was, let's put these little baby pine trees that didn't last a couple of months. And they did nothing, they didn't grow, there was no buffer, I lost my land, there was no, I got nothing back from what I lost, okay? So when I put up a fence recently to try to salvage what I have left of a yard. And so what's gonna happen now when all of this is dug up? I'm hearing great things about drainage and whatnot, but lived it didn't happen. So where's my guarantee it's not gonna happen again, and how do we prevent it? So, I guess that's part of the concern of making it an actual public road. I think that if it is city-owned, then the abutters' property is probably better protected, or maybe the city can figure out a way for the runoff, to prevent the runoff that I've experienced from other construction coming in and out. And they had already basically kind of answered the questions as far as the amount of beds. I want to see the program succeed. I hope that they get the grant, because then they have the money to run a great facility. I don't want a vacant building. I don't want the vacant school. I don't want the vacant, building. That can cause problems. We've been lucky that we haven't had that issue. So, limiting them to, a certain amount of beds and then it growing, I would much rather see them get what they need to run a successful business so that it's run properly, that the neighborhood and the scenery of the neighborhood doesn't change, the safety of the neighborhood doesn't change. So I hope that they get what they need for that. My concerns are, okay, the buffers between business and residential, and the runoff of my land, and things like that. So, I don't want to see them have to be limited necessarily with, saying, oh, we can only have this, we can only have that. If they get the money and it's successful, then that's good. It's better for the neighborhood that they're successful. So that's what we want. And they, were great as far as answering questions about how it's going to be run and things like that, and welcoming us to be a part of it, okay? But my concern now is it's a private way. So who's going to answer to the loss of my property? Who's going to answer to, okay, now, so we dig up the road again. What happens to my land again? Now I lose more, and what am I potentially going to lose my fence? My fence is now going to slide down? Because that's exactly what happened. I had to pay for excavators to come in to build up the land, to put more rock, and it all washed away. So what happens now? And who's responsible? So right now, I'm being told, from what I'm listening to, and correct me if I'm wrong, that pretty much no one's responsible. So now the road gets torn up, and all of this construction, and the trucks going back and forth, just like it did with the Applewood people. Now what happens? Who fixes the problem? How does that get corrected if it's not a city street? Because the homeowners association, they're going to go, too bad for you, and I can't say that I blame them. Because it's not their property, it's mine. But how do I How does that concern get addressed? And who is actually responsible for it is I want to know. Because I'm not saying that it's them, but if it is, I want to know, and if it's the city, I want to know, because I want someone to go to when my land is washing away again, because that's exactly what's going to happen. I lived it.
So, just so I understand, what you're saying is, last time, when Berry Road was first built,
When Berry Road was built, and then when they went and did the subdivision out back, so Independence Way and all of that, so the trucks had a temporary access, okay, to go through for the construction. And when they did that, they tore up part of Berry Road, which is what they're proposing to do again.
and that caused erosion there, which
Massive.
kept eroding.
Now my land goes like this. They're speaking correct in saying that my land now goes like this. My land went out and then had a subtle,
Yep.
whatever, decline. It's not subtle anymore. And I lost a lot of property. So I now am missing several feet of a backyard that I lost, but when I bought my home, I had. So, and then we had a water main break on Mary Teresa Terrace. The city tried to come in and tried to fix it, but because it wasn't fixed when that original construction happened, the water department only did what they could do, and it really didn't solve the problem, so I had to pay to put in a stockade fence.
Okay. Well, the way things work now is a builder has to submit an erosion and sedimentation plan for what's going on during their construction. Knowing that this is a sensitive site, has this potentially erodible slope next to it. Oh, and that plan has to be acceptable to the city engineer. Knowing that this is a sensitive site and has this problematic slope next to it, the city engineer, we can make sure that she's aware of this situation, and she can just kind of keep a sharp eye out to make sure that their erosion and sedimentation plan will not cause that same problem.
Okay, so when does that happen? And you know what I mean? And where, I guess, well, when does that happen? So you're saying you can make sure that this person is aware. So at what point in time during this process are they made aware? When is it addressed along the way, and who do I address it to?
Well, she'll be aware of it now through the subdivision process. She's getting these documents, and they need to have they've got a sedimentation plan that was submitted with this. But when they go to do the construction, and so therefore the city engineer is going to know through the subdivision process that this is something to keep an eye out for. When they go to actually do their construction, is it in the building permit phase you have to show your erosion?
In this situation, it's a private way, you need a driveway permit. You need a driveway permit for that roadway, which goes
Yep.
through the city.
Right, okay, that's part of their building permit process and stuff. When they want to start putting in their road, they need to get driveway permits. And that is the enforcement opportunity for the city engineer to hold their feet to the fire and make sure they're doing their construction and doing their road work in a way that isn't causing erosion problems for abutters.
Okay, and if the erosion happens again?
If they start to
Who addresses
have,
that, who fixes it, and who pays for it?
is it inspectional services or engineer? I think it's engineering that is actually inspects ongoing work. So it's the engineering department here in City Hall.
That answers part of my question.
Okay.
So the erosion happens. How is it addressed, how is it fixed, and who pays for it?
The builder. The builder is responsible for making sure that they don't cause problems, and if they cause problems for neighbors, they have to fix those problems.
Okay, but that didn't happen last time, so I lived through that. And because, and I'm not trying to put this on them, it's really now I am putting it kind of on the board because I lived through this, and that other person was not held accountable, and I lost property. So where's my reassurance that I'm not gonna live that all over again?
The truth is, the practices in the past have not always been what they are today. I believe you when you say that this happened last time and that nobody was keeping an eye on it. The city doesn't quite operate in exactly the same manner that historically it did.
Okay. One other
Somebody
thing,
in your
and then-
position should be able to have a great deal of confidence in today's engineering department that they watch these building projects with an eagle eye
Okay.
in
One-
2015.
One other concern of mine. So let's say, they fix the process along the way, okay? It's addressed as it happens, and at that time, everyone's happy. So we have tons of rain, or another water main breaks on Mary Teresa Terrace. My neighbor's in the middle, because it's a cul-de-sac that you can drive around, and then there's houses in the middle. Okay, so the houses in the middle sit higher than my side. So the runoff goes right down. That's where the water department came in. They addressed some of it. They did what they could do, but because of the Applewood people, there was only so much the city could do, okay? So let's say something like that happens again. My land now washes down into what is now considered a private way, which will then, my land is washing onto a private way that has a homeowners association. Are they gonna come to me and say, clean up my road? How is that gonna be addressed? Because I don't have that kind of money. So how do we address that how is that addressed? If this is a city way, if this is a city road and it's accepted from day one as a city road, then I would think that would be addressed properly before anything goes wrong.
There is certainly a lot more, the city certainly has a lot more control if it's its own road. One thing I will say is that the city acceptance of a road, that happens at the end of a project. When the road is already built and inspected and, usually the subdivision project is all done, then they go before the city council for acceptance of the road.
Okay, but if it happens the way I just mentioned,
and until then,
my
it's
land
there.
ends up on a private way that's owned by an association, what happens then? Who's responsible? Am I responsible? So if my land, let's say another water main breaks on Mary Teresa, let's say we have massive amounts of rain, and we've had flooding in the city before, where it actually does come down the road, my land sits low because Mary Teresa kind of comes around and goes down. So my land sits lower, okay? So the water runoff from the road even, it's gonna go down, it goes down the backyard. I did put up fencing to try to help that. But then what happens if my land washes under my fence and it goes down that steep hill that is my land, and then my dirt, my rocks, or whatever, or my fence collapses and goes down because of a water main break or because of flooding due to rain? Am I responsible to clean up a private way for that? Because, excuse me, but I don't want to use that word. I got taken, thank you, the first time by the first developer, and they didn't put anything to stop that from happening when they dug up the road and dug into my property. So I'm trying to preemptive strike.
Yep.
So that I'm not ending up responsible, and then if they don't need to be responsible, I just want to know. I'm looking and I'm asking these questions because I lived it. It happened, it's real, they're not hypotheticals. So what happens if it happens again? Who's responsible and who has to pay for it?
Excuse me, Judy, can you jump in on that?
Yes, I think I can address some of it. I mean, the city is obligated at this point and for the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years to provide for more strict stormwater control through the national, the NIPD's permits that we have to file with the state and federal government. So the entire city, under the engineering department and DPW, is required to account for all of the city infrastructure and account for all of the stormwater drainage. And again, there are very, very strict controls. If it's city-owned property, the city has to demonstrate that it is adhering to those standards, that it is not allowing any runoff from any activity that the city is doing, either through repairs or repaving or new roads. So I don't know the timeframe that the resident is speaking of. For new construction, when the developer is constructing, they have to provide, as Mr. Boyle stated, an erosion and sediment control plan for the duration of the construction. And once a project is completed, if there is an owner, if it's commercial property, and again, if this does become a homeowners association, they have an annual stormwater and maintenance report that has to be filed on an annual basis. And again, that's part of the city's NIPD's permit, the stormwater utility permit that we file with the state and the federal government every year. The city will be fined if they do not comply with the standards in that permit. So things have changed. So if that road does not go to a homeowners association and it gets accepted by the city, then the city has its own stormwater and operation maintenance plan that they have to adhere to every year. So the city property is not allowed, the stormwater is not allowed to drain onto adjacent properties. That is no longer allowed. You cannot, as a resident, your property cannot, the stormwater cannot drain from your property onto your neighbor's property. You have to fix it, it has to be addressed. So again, I don't know the time frame that
It was when that last subdivision, so after 2003.
So, yeah, so that...
It was
if
between that time and like 2010.
Yes, so many things have changed since then. So
07.
the stormwater regulations have changed quite a bit in that time frame. And
But it's existing from that last developer. So, you know, why am I gonna end up then responsible? So what you're saying is that my land can't wash away onto theirs and I'm responsible for it. That shouldn't be happening, but it's happening because I was, let's say, taken, and we're gonna put these little baby pine trees that didn't last a month. So, so now you're saying that I am responsible
I can't address
for
what has gone on. I can't address what has already happened. What I'm saying is, with any new development, they have to supply an erosion and sediment control during construction, and they have to provide, if it's owned by private property, a stormwater operations and maintenance control plan annually. And if it's city-owned property, the city has to do that stormwater management and maintenance report annually to the federal government.
I still feel I'm back, and I don't have any answers. I mean, I know you're...
I mean, you'd be welcome to talk to to Lisa DeMeo in the engineering department. She can tell you all about the
I think it's
NIPD's
me just
permit.
not understanding the process, really, so.
I'm sorry?
It's not what you're saying, I think it's me just not really understanding.
And you'd be more than welcome to talk to the planning department, talk to us, and we'd be happy to review that.
All right, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Okay, I just have two questions, that's it. One, I think, Matt, you indicated that one of the comments from planning staff was to extend the road an additional 10 feet. You said you had no problem with that.
That's correct.
And I think Bob had the question here that before was answered very quickly, so you couldn't do a cul-de-sac due to the fact that at the end there, I think
That's
Gene
correct.
said because of the way the shape of the land is?
That's right.
Okay. So that brings me to one other question, which I'm getting to. Where the fire emergency, they said you need the easement there for the emergency turnaround for the fire department, and they want that with signage because they can, planning staff is concerned that people are gonna park there.
That's right.
Is there any way that we can, because even if you're putting a sign there, doesn't mean people aren't gonna park there. Is there any other way that we can think of blocking that off, so we just have fire apparatus?
Well, I could add that each of the lots have accommodations for 4 vehicles, so we do have sufficient parking on each of the lots. The only other thing you could do is put a breakaway gate.
Yeah.
I was thinking of a chain.
Chain.
Because what we've done in the past, when those chains, the fire department comes up, they just cut it.
Right. So
Because the
that's-
sign, I mean,
That's
I mean,
the alternative.
if you get lot 5, lot 4,
could make it
they have a
private.
gathering, they're gonna park there. You know, more likely than not. Because they're gonna be at the end of the street, figure not gonna bother anybody else. Someone has, this time of year, graduation, prom, people over the house, they're gonna park there.
These things
They got the
happen,
fire-
yes,
It happens.
absolutely.
And, fire department has told us several times in the past, change don't stop us, so.
That's
They
right.
just cut. But-
Yeah.
So that's something to consider, so.
Sure.
That's all I have to add. so.
And we'll just make sure we talk to the fire department
Okay,
about that
yeah.
and give them
Because I
that
know that they're
option.
concerned about not getting in there, so whichever makes them satisfied is
Yeah,
satisfied with me. I mean, they're concerned, if you just put a sign, no parking there, they think people on the end of the street, who's gonna see it, they're gonna park there.
so whatever the fire chief says, we're gonna do.
Good enough.
So-
All right.
Mr. Chairman, you know what might be one possibility there? A 4-inch curb. A fire truck would have no problem at all surmounting a 4-inch curb.
I mean, it's up to the
whereas
fire
a-
department, sure.
what-
That's their call, I have no problem with it either way. You know, if they want to put the curb in, they want to put the chain in, I mean, they've told us in the past they have no problem with the chains. I mean, I can think of 3 or 4 sites that we have them on now.
Yeah.
Yes, Dean?
I do want to clarify as it relates to the plans for Mr. Frechette. We did submit one set of plans, but what we wanted to do tonight was to just say, look, there might, because sometimes Mr. Boyle likes to talk about some alternative frontage looks to the houses. So part of it was a marketing plan, you know. So like to give you an example, the plan you said that you liked is actually a ranch plan. It's actually a single-story house. So we're thinking if we had somebody who was looking for that type of housing, that would be what we're looking to do, try to do. We also spoke that, you know, we would talk about being able to know that you could put farmers' porches on the fronts of these houses, and we can. So we did submit a plan that's kind of a generic plan that based upon what we had spoken of with floor plans and layouts and everything like that. That's gonna be the general house style that we planned on using. The other house styles are derivatives of it, if you look at them, with farmers' porches and different angles of the garage roofs and so forth, just to try to depict something different. But it wasn't, in any of the plans that you see where you might see a driveway or a to one side or another, those houses can be flipped, or the driveways, I guess, you know, can be turned and put on the lot wherever they need to be. So I just wanted to clarify that you know, we brought these in part to be able to describe the styles of homes that we wanted to do, and that we could maintain something different in the fronts, that they wouldn't all look identical to each other, and that we would try to incorporate that into it. And if we did have somebody who came along who wanted single-story living, we wanted to show you something that would fit that size on our setbacks.
I
And we'll give you
appreciate
the
that,
rest.
Mr. Jenkins. However, we have granted probably 4 of these since it's been approved. And in every single instance, we know exactly the home that's going to be built on the site. And you did one on Harvard Street, matter of fact. We know exactly the style home that's going to go on the site, exactly how it's going to look. That's the purpose of having the special permit. That is the very purpose of the special permit.
So we will give you
Those two
definitive for
lots.
those 2 lots.
Those 2 lots requiring special permit, the intention, well, my expectation is that
So
we're
assume-
going to approve the exact home that's going to sit on there.
So assume assume what we submitted then fits the bill, because that's the house that fits the bill.
That's
They
what we're-
they do fit in.
Okay, thank you.
So the ones that we did submit to you will be the 2 houses we'll build.
Great, thank you.
Okay, what's the wish of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to continue the applicant's request for subdivision approval and special permit with the intention that the applicant will work with the city engineering department and the fire department, as well as DPD, to design the roadway with the intention of getting a recommendation from the city's engineering department that she would, if built to those specifications, would recommend that the road be approved, and also that the applicant will work with DPD, submit the final plans for the home that will be constructed on the 2 lots requiring the special permit, and, which is Lot B and Lot 5? No, that's the easement,
One and two.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, 1 and 2.
Lots 1 and 2.
Sorry, yeah.
And also, again, with the idea that they will work with DPD regarding the landscape buffer on the surrounding the abutting properties of the settlement home.
Actually, it's 2 and 3, one's the settlement.
Is that 2 and 3?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
lots 2, the two lots require
2
one
and 3,
special
right.
permit.
The lot
So
one is the
that would be the
settlement.
intent of granting the extension.
2 and 3, because this is the, yeah.
And I guess I would look to continue this to council, how much time do you think you would?
I thought 2 weeks should be fine.
Okay, so we would extend it, we would continue it to the June 1st meeting.
Available 15, but
The first?
The 1st? For the 1st? Okay. That would be my motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Anybody want to second that?
Second.
Okay, Bob seconds it. Okay, Jerry, motion, Bob second, go ahead. Did you have a comment, Mr.
The
Lockhart?
turnaround, don't we need some specific information
Yes,
about
yeah.
from the fire department relative to that, which could include the chain across the front of it?
Okay.
Which again, I'm assuming in the discussions with city engineer and the fire department and DPD is getting an recommended approval, that would be taken into consideration.
Okay, so we have motion on the floor and second to continue the matter to June 1st. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, the approval is granted, so the matter will be continued to June 1st.
thank you.
Okay. We're going to take a brief recess before we start up the next public hearing, which is 112 Walker Street. John, can I see you for 1 second?
No, you'll have to go up to the podium. They'll ask you to, up to, yes, yeah.
We're trying to prove it. How is that going to work? It's like a clean residential development. Why is that present all the what they sit on the lot? It's really proving the achievement funds. They didn't want to build it to one design. You got the achievement funds is off of our the Rollies Tree Farm, Frida Lane, okay? Go in there, you get one house over the shadow of the other house, you know, that's, if we get, actually, you're getting a small, that way they gives you the ability to. That's what the whole that's the purpose. That's the right. It doesn't make any difference. I want to know how that sits. Somebody else.
houses, residential or on their own, it's not like a certain house there can be in an assisted living.
You know what? You call it the way you want. You have your vote.
Have we had any of this, like new subdivision?
No, absolutely brand new.
Okay.
That's the way I'm gonna apply it.
But you have a vote.
That's the way I'm gonna apply it. I strongly am not gonna move forward on that without talking to the city. I think it's on us.
See, sit on the lot is, you know, I'm thinking how it sits on the lot is one thing.
Because to be
What the,
honest
what,
with you,
but
to be
how
honest
is,
with you, the architectural integrity of a small home, we've got an intricate roof line like that, that would fit in even a larger home. That would look very nice. You put a square box,
right,
all right, a 5-room 1960s ranch on a slab. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we want to make sure doesn't happen as well.
okay.
But I mean, look at that. That would, I mean,
I would live there.
yeah,
that sounds nice.
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's not single story though.
No, it's not.
That's what confused me.
Yeah, no, you know. He is recorded.
Okay, we're going to start back up again, thank you. Okay, moving along, our next public hearing will be a special permit for a public hearing at 112 Walker Street. The Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an application by 112 Walker Realty Trust seeking a special permit for a building located at the above address. The proposal consists of the establishment of a 3-family residential building located at the above address. The applicant is seeking a special permit under section 12.1 of the city zoning ordinance. The parcel comprises approximately 3,360 square feet of land and is located in the traditional multi-family zoning district. May we hear the case from the applicant, please?
My name is Mark Jeetzy. I am the owner at 112 Walker Street. We purchased the property approximately a year ago. When we purchased it, it was, by the assessor's office, it was classified as a 3-family. We assessed the property, assessed meaning going through the property and seeing what it needed for the purposes of redevelopment and bringing it up to standard. When we purchased the property, we did a full assessment of the inside of the building. It had several locations, knob and tube wiring, sewage pipes were leaking into the building, and they had been repaired, but the repairs were leaking. Many of the electrical circuits were not functioning properly. Doors and windows were not operating properly. In essence, the house was non-financeable by FHA. We had to buy it with our own financing, and we are seeking, when we originally went into it, we thought it was a 3-family, according to the assessor's office. We put together plans to do a full renovation of it, to bring it up to all current standards and building codes. And during that process, we were told that it was non-conforming, and that we had to go through this process in order to get it approved. Just want to say a little bit about myself. We have several properties in Lowell. We have redeveloped 6 of them. I'm not an absentee landlord. We don't buy these properties to just flip them over and make a profit. We buy these properties, we renovate them and rehab them, and we own and operate them. We're in this for the long haul. We have only sold 1 property on 49 Franklin Street because we learned after we built it that it just didn't fit what we were trying to do. It was out of the area where we wanted to be, and we thought it was best that we sold it. But other than that, that was an anomaly. Other than that, we've only purchased properties for redevelopment, and we operate and maintain them. We're not an absentee landlord. I have a presence in Lowell nearly every single day to address any issue that comes up. And to date, we have had no issues with the city or the building department, Board of Health, and we comply with everything that we need to comply with. The proposal that we're having is simply to bring the property up to compliance with what we thought it was. It had been used as a 3-family with bedrooms, kitchens, and bathrooms and so forth, but it turns out that it wasn't in compliance because of the way it was zoned. We don't propose any changes to the outside of the building. We're not changing the footprint of the building. We will make improvements to the outside, roof, windows. We've already done the windows, by the way. But roof, windows, maybe some repairs to the siding, but no additions or anything like that. The stairs and stoops need a little bit of masonry repair. That'll be done. And of course, the landscape around the building will be maintained and upgraded. There's a few trees that we're gonna remove because they're unsafe, hanging branches and hanging over the sidewalk. So we will be removing those, but perhaps replacing it with something else. But the condition right now is not satisfactory. There's a fruit tree in the front of the house that we'd like to maintain, but I don't know if it makes any sense because I think it'll make a mess. Let's see. I spoke of the point of sale when we bought it, of the condition and how we want to improve it. Currently, if we were to keep it as a 2-family, it would simply combine the 2nd and 3rd floor apartment into 1 apartment. We will still maintain the 2 bathrooms on that particular apartment. Really, nothing will change in the building except a few egress, a few of the entrance doors, which will just simply combine the 2nd and 3rd floor unit. We prefer not to do that because, for a number of reasons, having a large unit like that, in our opinion, with our experience, those units are more difficult to maintain. They're more difficult to attract good families and good people in there when you have so many people in such a large apartment. It's not desirable. By having 3 separate apartments, we feel we can attract a more stable clientele, one that'll stay there longer and respect the property and neighborhood appropriately. And we also believe that having the property being built and constructed as a 3-family is better for the city of Lowell. You have an extra housing unit, which I realize sometimes that's not desirable. For example, on 794 Merrimack Street, that's a property we did 3 years ago that used to be a 4-unit. We actually converted it to a 3-unit because it made more sense. It was just more desirable, the property appeared better, and it functioned better as a 3-family rather than a 4. So there's a case where we went the other way. And I believe the assessment would be higher, so that would be a benefit to the city of Lowell. In the process of doing that, so far, I've been solicited by a person, I'll just say a person in the neighborhood, that they actually would like me to buy their house. And, you know, we would consider doing that because in a sense, this is the broken window theory in reverse. We will be developing this house and making it one of the better homes in the neighborhood. And I believe that that'll stand to further improve the neighborhood going forward. When someone like me comes in and makes such a large investment on a single property, I think a lot of times more properties will follow. And I think this would be of benefit to the city. And furthermore, you know, I think it does come down to a lot of people will have issues to do with parking. I don't believe that the parking situation would change by legalizing, I'll say, the third unit, because the bedroom count will basically stay the same. If we were to leave it as a two-family apartment, there possibly would be actually more bedrooms because that apartment would be so large. You now have a kitchen that you don't have to have on the third floor that could potentially be used as a bedroom. So, you know, I actually have an argument that, you know, there'll be less strain on resources by making it a three-family rather than a two-family. And in closing, I just request this because in actually making it a three-family, it does represent a much larger investment on our part because we would likely have to put fire sprinkler systems and other smaller upgrades because it is a three-family, things that we don't have to do if it were a two-family. But for what we do, I believe it would offer much more stability in many respects, both for us financially and for the community as a whole, because of the people that we could attract into the building.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else here this evening want to speak in regards to this project? Just come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Lucille LaChapelle, and my husband and I have been living across the street from this house for almost 60 years.
So what address are you, ma'am?
Excuse me?
What address are you at?
47 Schaefer Street.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we were told that this was going to be student housing, that there was going to be 4 bedrooms on the first floor, 4 on the second, possibly, you didn't say, but probably 3 at least on the third floor. So you have a potential of 10 students, maybe more, maybe 12. How are you going to have all these cars parked? Doesn't make any sense. There's only room, I would say, for 4 cars. We were told they were going to have a driveway made, but you have to understand this is a very small yard that they have. So they would have to have 1 car here, that's all the width there is, right next to a bedroom. The other cars would have to be, so the 4th car, in order for them to get out, they would have to get all the other 3 cars out of there so they could get out. It doesn't make any sense. So I would say at the very most, 5 cars. Walker Street, see, this house is 112 Walker Street, but it's built on the length, so that most of the house is on Schaefer Street. Walker Street is only allowed one side to park, which means that people living on Walker Street will park in front of 112 Walker. They've done that forever. So you can't count that as a parking space for a car. So that's what I'm saying. There's not enough room. He didn't say anything now about students, so I don't know if he changed his mind or not. But this is what we were told. They had a porch, and they made a bedroom out of that, so they have 4 bedrooms on the first and 4 on the second. I'm not sure, probably 3 on the third, because they don't have a porch on the third floor. So that was my concern. I thought I'd bring that up.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in regards to this project? Anybody else? Hearing anybody else? Hearing none, I'll turn it over to any board members have any questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, could I?
Sure, Mr. Fischett, go ahead.
Could I just ask Mrs. LaChapelle a question, please? Where you've lived there for some time on Schaefer Street, when it was apparently there was an illegal third unit, how was the parking situation over there? Where were they?
Well, for most, there was a few trucks that would park there, but basically some of these people were very poor, they couldn't afford a car. But, there's been times when people did have cars, and really, there's not that much room. The length of the house, you figure 4 cars. And that's not counting if they have company, or somebody else parks there, where are they gonna park? It's a big problem.
Okay, thank you. Just question to Judy. Judy, I'm looking at the dimensional requirements. I just want to make sure I have this correct. So this is in a TMF zone. And for a single-family dwelling, the required minimum lot size is 4,500 square feet. For all other uses, so if we're talking multifamily, it's 6,000 square feet, is that correct? And we currently have a lot size of 3,060 square feet.
Right.
And then the lot area per dwelling unit is 4,000, so theoretically, we should have 12,000 square feet for a 3-family. Now, I did witness on Walker Street, and I took pictures of the parking. There was parking all the way to the end of, from Walker to Schaefer in front of the home. I would say the property certainly has some architectural integrity for a multifamily, and obviously if that wrought iron fence is fixed, I think it has a kind of a stately look to it. Didn't realize one of those trees was a fruit tree. This is a tough situation. I think you can understand it really is a stretch from what the requirement is for the zoning ordinance, but I understand what you're trying to do. I found your argument somewhat intriguing regarding potential for fewer cars with a third unit rather than more bedrooms in the existing units. That is an interesting argument, I must say. Mr. Chairman, so my concerns are with the stretches beyond the minimum required zoning. I understand what we have there. I must say, in the times that I did visit there, Schaefer Street did not seem to have a lot of cars on it. Lakeview, I'm sorry, Walker was a different story, obviously, that was pretty congested. Ma'am, again, if you could comment on Schaefer Street as far as what you're noticed?
Right across the street is a 4-apartment house. And there was always there was 4 apartments. But on the 3rd floor, I had gone in there one time on the 3rd floor, it's huge. So some people bought the house. This house is close to 100 years old. It was never finished. So when they bought it, what they had in mind was to make the 3rd floor probably 2 more apartments. So what happened, when I saw them do that, I said, geez. I came down and I went to where they give out the permits, and right away the woman said, no, they can't do that, there's not enough parking space. She knew that. And right now we have this big truck that parks there all the time, takes up practically half of the parking area. And the other big truck is parked in the driveway. But that takes up a lot of room. And usually in front of that building, it's pretty much full. They have a driveway for two cars 4 cars if one's parked in back. So that was a big problem there. They stopped them right away.
I noticed several of the properties that don't appear to have sufficient parking to cover the units. Do you have any idea during a snow emergency in the city, how, in that neighborhood, how that's been dealt with?
Cars are on the road. They have no places, no driveways anywhere. Maybe a couple of houses, but most houses do not have a driveway. Everybody parks on the street. They don't, even when they're plowing. They only plow for one car to go. Of course, it is a one-way street. So they do one car, one car can go by, and that's it.
All right, thank you.
It's a big, big problem.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm curious to hear what the other board members feel about it. Okay.
Anybody else? In a minute, I'm gonna have another board member will get back to you, okay?
Okay.
Bob?
I'm concerned about the parking, and I believe every bedroom generates a potential car. And I think this, if it was a two-family, fine. They would be entitled to not have parking if it was turned back to the previous state. But he's asking for now a change. And that, to me, that kicks in 6 parking spaces required on site.
Anything else? No?
I have one question.
Sure.
What's the rumor about student housing? Is that true or not true?
I would say that's a rumor, because we don't discriminate. If we advertise to rent an apartment, we typically use Craigslist, and we have a real estate broker in Lowell. Just one person that I know that he's actually the broker that we purchased the home from, but I've known him for 5 years now. We either advertise on Craigslist or we give an apartment to the broker and they bring us clients. Just the nature of where the property is, there's a possibility that it will be rented to students. We have other properties, the property that we have on Riverside, 156 Riverside Street, it's a beautiful property, and that's rented to students, and my daughter is one of them. You can't help it that if you have a house that's in proximity to the school, that students are gonna apply. And, we do proper screening, anytime there's a student in there, we have parents co-signing the lease, and we take all the appropriate measures, because it's in our interest to do such a thing, because we're making a very large investment. We're not just renting it to anybody. And again, we don't discriminate on who we rent to. We can't.
Yeah, I understand that, but my equation is if you rent to students, individuals instead of families, every individual that's sharing that apartment is going to have a vehicle. The likelihood, especially in a commuter campus like the University of Lowell.
Well, I can't.
And I understand your situation.
No, but I can't predict that. I mean.
I know, and I have to.
Nobody can predict it. Who's to say that if we rent to, professional roommates, we have some of that we have a property on Arlington Street, and we have their roommates, they're adults, they're roommates, they work. I can't control, I can't say, oh, well, I'm not gonna rent to you because you have 2 cars. I can't do that. If somebody wants to apply for an apartment, I can't qualify them based on a number of things.
But you need to provide off-street parking for your units. For 3 units, you need off-street parking for 6 vehicles.
Well, I think, just if I stand in the front of, and I'm presenting a rationale, not an argument. If you were to stand on the front steps of my property and just look across the street and look all around you, there's probably not a single house that I can see in the neighborhood that would have adequate parking, according to the current zoning laws.
Right.
Probably 95% of all homes in Lowell don't have proper parking according to the new zoning laws. That's just how it is, and I can't improve on that. I mean, we can, in the back of the building right now, if you visited the site in the current condition, you see a dumpster back there.
I think most of the board members have been up there, yeah, not all of us, right?
I can conceivably, you know, probably, I think I could put 2 parking spaces in there. You know, so if that were a possibility, let's say, then my argument would now be, you're gonna have the same amount of bedrooms or more bedrooms if it's a 2-family. But be that as it may, by making the 3rd unit a legal unit, again, there's probably gonna be 1 less bedroom in the case of a 3-family, and if I were permitted to put the 2 parking spaces in the back, I'm providing relief on that building. If I leave it as a 2-family and don't change anything, the parking is gonna be what it is. Just because we're adding a 3rd unit, and then if you're gonna say, well, now you have to provide 6 parking spaces, well, it's impractical and it's impossible. There's not enough space there to do that. So, you know, leaving it as it is probably more stressful in the neighborhood than putting a 3rd unit all by itself. Furthermore, if you put a 3rd unit in, and maybe if we can put the parking in that back little section by adding the 1 or 2 spaces, I don't know that we can put 3. But I'm pretty sure we could put 2 spaces in there.
I looked at the site, if you get 2 cars on your property, that's the most you could ever get.
Yeah, no, I don't think we can put 3. I've tried to play with that in my mind, but where the dumpster is in that area, I believe we can probably fit 2 cars in there.
Yeah. Our job is to think about the worst-case scenario rather than the best-case scenario. And I'm concerned about the number of parking spaces that are available to this site, given that congested neighborhood. And if that 3rd unit wasn't created and you had bought it as a 2-family, we wouldn't even be here.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm done.
Okay, Mr. Boyle?
How many bedrooms are on each floor?
Well, the 1st and 2nd floor are identical units, or nearly identical, I should say. There's 3 bedrooms and a 4th room, which is where the pantry was, could be used as an office. And there is a side porch, but it's a side porch. It's an enclosed porch, but it wouldn't be used as a bedroom. I don't think we can properly insulate it, and it can't be properly heated. So it's gonna remain a porch. The 3rd floor is it's a 2-bedroom that could possibly be used as a 3-bedroom.
Lose that kitchen. If you were to combine that into...
Well, if you lose the kitchen, it's a 3, possibly a 4, if you lose the kitchen.
All right. 3. Maybe.
This possibility of adding 2 off-street spaces. That changes the map.
And I think if we were able to get the 2 spaces in there, I think it can actually be made to look good by just keeping a little, of course, there's not a lot of room there. I don't want to oversell it, but along the fence and along the like the back porch, and there's like a little alcove in there. you know, some green could be put in there, low-lying shrubs, something like that.
Yeah, thank you. Mitch?
Yeah, I obviously have the same concern about the parking. I'd like to see what you might be able to do there in terms of on-site parking. You just don't have much to work with here. I'm not confident that you can do it. In fact, the book says that in this zone, 3-family, the building cannot exceed 35% of the land area. That would limit the building, the footprint to be 1,176 square feet, which is just, you know, a quantitative way of looking at how little room you have here. But if you can do it, you know, maybe you get a chance. That's all I have.
Okay. Richard?
When did you purchase the property?
I should know exactly when. I think it was last May, right around there.
That would have still been FY 14?
Yeah.
May of 14.
Yep.
14.
FY 14, and it's saying that the assessors changed that to a 3-family in FY 15. Are you contending that when you purchased the property, it showed on the tax rolls as a 3-family?
That's what I was led to believe. And then when I had this assessor come out, she looked at it and I guess called it a 3-family. You know, I could be possibly a little bit inaccurate on that.
Some justification for that.
I don't completely recall, but when we bought it, we thought it was a 3. I mean, it was obviously used as a 3 because there was, you know, 3 kitchens, 3 bathrooms, and
But when you purchase property, one would expect you to do your due diligence, and the attorney does, you know, to make sure that you're purchasing what you think you're purchasing. That's my only question.
yeah. Well, look, I'm not, if I made a misjudgment, a business misjudgment, if you will, then, you know, then I'm guilty as charged. You know, when the property came on the market, we were excited about it. We liked the location. We liked the bones of the house. I mean, the place, despite all the deficiencies that most of what I described, the place was infested like I've never seen before. We found boxes, I still have one of them that I have to turn into the police. We found boxes of live bullets in the house. I still have one box in my van that we recently found, and I just got to bring it to the police station. Like, I don't know what to do with these, but I mean, the place was decrepit, but the bones were good. You know, structurally, it was pretty sound, except for one wall that's kind of out of level that we can't get back. It was a pretty sound building, so we were excited about it because to us, you know, plaster, plumbing, wiring, we can fix all that. But structurally unsound buildings are very expensive to, you know, beyond feasibility. And so, you know, when this happens, when they come on the market in Lowell, especially now, you have to act fast on it. Because if you don't, then you're not going to get the property. And so maybe we hastily acted and, you know, I didn't due diligence. But be that as it may, we still don't regret buying it. You know, we're excited about what we're doing in Lowell. I have, you know, 10 different properties or more. We've developed 6 of them, and you know, this is just what we're doing. We're excited about it, and I hope to just continue doing it.
Judy, do you have any further comments from staff? I know we received your memorandum. And the main question was the parking. I think that's been raised so far.
Can I just ask a quick question? I'm sorry to interrupt. you have the letter that, you know, I've sat with the building commissioner just for advice on what he would want us to do in terms of, you know, developing the property, and we've kind of gone through the plans, and, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that, and so forth, and I believe he wrote a letter just stating some facts about the place.
This one here? March 6th, this is dated March 16th.
Yeah, we have one from, yeah.
That's where he calls
Sean
it legally
Shanahan?
to
Yeah.
Sean Shanahan.
The building commissioner?
Yeah.
We have that one, yeah, okay. Okay, so get back to Judy.
Is the one beyond that, Judy?
I don't believe so. The March 16th letter from Sean Shanahan was the request for legal use determination. So he basically stated, you know, it is, it's been in continuous use as two-family, and the assessor's office, I mean, he does his research when he writes these letters. He's required to do the proper amount of research so that this is a true statement, you know, of fact, that the assessor's office did change their assessment to 3-unit. And it was done without a building permit. And, you know, we do see this happen quite frequently. The one thing that I would caution in terms of parking spaces on site is that there would have to be a paving permit pulled with the engineering office, and the engineering office probably would come and check with us with regard to the exact configuration of the parking to make sure that it had the required width and the depth for parking, and also the required offsets from the property line and from the building, which is just required by zoning. I think it's 3 feet from the property line and maybe 5 feet from the building. So even though the engineering office is just issuing a paving permit, they usually do come down and ask us about it, about those zoning requirements. And then we would have to act and bring the applicant in and make them comply with the, you know, the parking requirements for any parking spots that are created. And also then you'd have curb cuts. I don't think that'd be an issue in this case, but we'd have to make sure that the parking spaces do fit.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Any input, have any follow-up, or? So if you put the parking in, wouldn't it be like stacked parking, one behind the other? I mean, because you couldn't go widthwise, and you couldn't go around the
Yeah,
back, right?
No, it couldn't be widthwise because I
that'd be
think we only have
stacked
14
parking,
feet.
right.
So I think it would have to be one.
Behind the others, we call it stacked.
Or the other thing is, again, I'd have to really look into it, but I was thinking that one vehicle, I'm coming in from the street, one vehicle could kind of pull into there and the other vehicle straight in like that.
Oh, it ain't, okay. I hear you.
But that's
Yeah,
sequential.
look at the dimensions, right,
That's
yeah.
also sequential, I
You got
guess.
14 feet in the back, though.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification too, they asked Judy, based on, Judy, what you said, and again, I was processing that in my mind as we were discussing it, most likely then we would be looking at a variance with probably the zoning board of appeals, because it's not gonna meet any of those setbacks from the foundation and from the property line.
Because it looks like he got 14 feet.
What it is, huh?
Then it opens up.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm saying, so then you gotta look at it stacked anyways, because you can't go side by side. And then if you have a 3-family, and if you get 2 parking spaces, so your relief needs, you still need 4. So if you stay with a 2-family and you don't have the off-street parking, the relief still remains at 4. So the math is still 4. Regardless whether it's 3 with 2 off-site, or 2 with, and off-street, or 2 with no off-street. So you still need 4. Either way you slice it. But I mean, it looks like the width from the edge of the building to the lot line would be 14, so just to give rough dimensions of, what do you say, 5 feet from the house and 3 feet from the yard? So that's 8, so you're down to 7. Just to throw the numbers out.
I could propose another thought, which I really would rather not do. You know, it would be, I don't know what the right word is. I wouldn't say liability. It would be a burden, and that would be demolish the porch. I really don't want to do that. It's a very expensive thing. It really detracts from the desirability of the units by not having a porch. Plus, we also
That
bought.
two-story structure that jets out, that gets us to the
Yeah.
foot, that's a porch? That's a two-story porch, right?
Well, I'm not sure what to call it, a porch or an enclosed porch?
Three-season room? or whatever.
Three-season room, yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I bought the windows for it already.
10 feet deep, plus your 14, that's 20, that'll give you 24 feet there. You might be
No.
able to do it.
Those aren't gonna be bedrooms. They're gonna remain, well, because, you know, just for full disclosure, and what we would be calling an office, they could potentially use as a bedroom.
Right, so that's what I was asking.
Should be 10 feet.
There's this space which they could even put another bedroom in. Is that the,
It's not the porch.
that's not what we're talking about? Okay,
The porches aren't gonna be heated.
okay.
They're gonna remain what they are right now, but we are blocking off a bunch of the windows because it just wasn't practical to buy that many windows for a porch, you know? It was basically gonna just be a porch,
At the back.
a three-season.
Right next to that dumpster is that porch he's talking about.
And as a matter of fact, those are common area, those two porches. They're not, yeah. The second floor potentially, let me see, the second floor porch, if it's a 3-unit, we were considering attaching that to the 3-unit just to reduce the common area. It's an architectural thing that we do. For example, like if you just picture a typical 3-family home, where you come up to the first floor, onto the second floor, then you go from the second floor onto the third floor. We'll frequently try to put the door at the bottom, the top landing at the, you know, in other words, when you're on the second floor landing, about to go up to the third floor, we like to put the door down there because it reduces the common area, and we think that's a good thing. Number one, we don't maintain it, but number two, it's just better. But, you know, it gives, you know, less people have access to that stairway, so there's just less activity can go on. We believe that it makes the third floor unit a little bit more secure. So we were thinking of taking that second floor porch and actually putting the door right before it, so that becomes part of the third floor for exclusive use as a porch.
That might work, yeah.
Space. Oh, that's good, yeah.
Be 24 feet wide, yeah. Might be able to do it. Bet you could.
We're just trying to figure out if you cut off that section, how many parking spaces you could pick up, depending on how you bring them in.
That might work.
Because now you're talking, if I'm looking at the plan, I think you'd have 24 feet
Right,
to where the building edge is compared to,
30 feet deep,
yeah.
yeah, that's 10 by 10.
I mean, depending on how the parking layout would be, I don't know if you'd pick up the 6, but even if you picked up, even if you picked up 4, you'd be in better shape than you are now, because now you'd be only two shot instead of 4 or 6 shot.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on how the parking would come out, whether you could come in and then face the parking facing the building, as long as you'd have enough backup area to turn them out, I'm not sure until they run the numbers on it.
Well, they could be angle spaces, and so.
Yeah, you could angle it.
Right on the street, and that's, in this situation, that's.
You could angle it, I think it'd work.
Does it not get credit for, like, in other words, there is street parking, just like any other house in the neighborhood?
Yeah, but, yes, but we wrote our zoning and our zoning requirements fully aware of street parking. So the assumption is that a unit needs two spaces plus. No place to park in the front, unfortunately. So, yeah, no, it's, street parking for it to require.
Could, Judy, if we ask the applicant to work with DPD to come up with a parking design, if he removes that structure, that two-story porch, and see what would best fit, whether or not, and we're trying to figure whether, maximize the amount of parking, but then it also, if you don't put as much, it can create, you have the buffers, but it might be better not to have the buffers and have more parking, but at least to come up with something for us to consider, because I think there's some possibility here of that working, believe it or not. I think the numbers would look better.
Yeah, I think there definitely is possibility for parking if that porch is removed, and it's a three-season porch, and as Mark said, you couldn't turn that into a bedroom. That would require all kinds of building code stuff and insulation, and but yes, we could work with the applicant and look at it and see if it would have to meet the setbacks, and then there's usable open space that's required, because you can't completely cover your entire lot. You get a small lot with a building on it, now you're adding pavement. But yeah, we could definitely work with them and figure out how many spaces.
Would you be willing to, if we continued this, to work with DPD and with the idea of what you suggested is removing that three-season porch?
I'm open to everything. Sorry. I'm always open to these kinds of things. However, I have to consider a few things. One is we need to get this job done. I'm carrying a note, and we've stopped the construction, we've stopped the work. Essentially, I mean, we're puttering around inside, but we're not doing anything significant. We haven't done any plumbing or electrical. The petitioning has basically been done, and that's it. We installed windows. We're supposed to do the roof Thursday, just because I'm trying to get something done.
So if we were to continue it to June 1st, next meeting, would that?
Of course, I'm not going to deny anything. I'm looking to accomplish something. I was hoping we can keep that three-season porch, but however, there becomes a point of diminishing returns in terms of the expense. In order to make this...
Well, I think gaining a third unit from an economic standpoint will be better than keeping the three-season porch. In working with DPD an extra 2 weeks of getting a denial here tonight probably would be more advantageous to you.
No, I'm not,
Okay.
I'm not arguing that.
Okay.
I'm just saying that, one of the things to consider is in making it a three-family, we're also saying that I'm now subjecting myself to a definite $20,000 increase in construction costs because I'll have to install sprinkler systems. That's just one item. Now,
Well, are you asking for a third unit, or are you
Yes,
not
I am.
asking for a third unit?
No.
Okay.
no.
I'm just trying to understand.
To answer your question, yes.
Okay, all right. So I would make a motion that you, yeah. Sure.
Now, with all due respect to this fine gentleman, the person he hired to do all the repairs had my husband go over, and he showed him what he's doing, and he's saying took the porch and he makes a bedroom out of it. So there would be 4 bedrooms on the first floor, same thing on the second, because he was going to have students, girls on the first floor, boys on the second floor, girls on the third. So, and the neighbor, she went over there too, and that person that's doing all the repairs told her the same thing. I don't know, if he had poor communication with the guy that's doing all the repairs, I would think he would know what's going on. I don't understand what he's saying.
That's all I know is what we would, ultimately, if there's a decision made and there's an approval, it would be based on what's presented to us. So right now, we're talking about removing the 3-season porches.
You didn't say that.
But again, this is what we're talking right now. This is what we're discussing as a possibility. Removing that, he submitted floor plans with the bedrooms, that would be part of what we're approving. So that would, again, that this is what, matter of fact, that's why we're doing the numbers, believe it or not. We may end up with a plan that's gonna be a much better situation than if we deny this right now and
Yeah.
he does a two-family.
You're better
To be
off,
honest
yeah.
with you, I think, ultimately, I think we may end up with a better plan, and he may end up with an extra unit.
I just don't understand why it's so different from what we were told.
Because we have new ideas that are coming up tonight for the first time. This is as far as I can tell, this is the first time this has been floated. And we're talking about new stuff.
The idea of the porch, that was kind of like a card that I was keeping in my pocket.
Well, you've played it, so.
Respectfully, it's not my first choice, okay?
Understood. Absolutely.
However,
Understood.
you know how this goes, and, I see what the discussion is, I see what the concerns are, and it's like, well, you know what,
Oh, and I appreciate you
I don't have to
offering it.
get the whole pie, maybe if I can get 7 slices instead of 8, I should be happy. And so that's why I make that presentation, which is precisely why even if you go to the house right now, on that side door, we put the new door in, we put the trim, and in the process of doing that, we had to remove the siding to the right of the door, and if you look right now, you see to the left of the door, there's no siding on there. Because I'm thinking, you know what, we might have to take this down, so let's not spend our time and money repairing it just to take it down. So it was something that I had been considering as a possibility.
And I think it was a good suggestion, actually.
Yeah,
It's a good
that's-
alternative.
So, would you rather try to work and come back with the parking thing and take down this 3-season porch, or would you rather just leave it at the two-family? Those are basically the choices at this point.
Well, I've come this far, I think I should, I've come this far, I've spent all this money, I think I should try to get my 3rd unit.
Okay. All right, so, Jerry, do you want to go forward with your motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to continue the matter until the planning board's June 1st meeting with the intent that the applicant will work with DPD on a parking design, taking into account the removal of the 3-season porches.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye. Chair votes yes, the motion is granted.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add
Sure.
a comment? I just want to make it clear that we're probably not looking at 6.
We
Correct.
understand.
Oh, we know.
Spaces. Okay.
What is the best you can come up with on that site?
Okay.
And then we're gonna see if, is it a better situation? This is
Right.
not a guarantee,
What you can
we're just
do.
seeing what you can do.
Okay, I just want to make sure we weren't
I
talking
don't
about
think
6
6 would fit,
off-street
no.
spaces.
I agree with the statement you made to my neighbor, and it's kind of what my contention was at the beginning. I believe that in the end, the mutually the best thing is the 3 apartments with the units, because otherwise I don't have to add parking. I could do everything by right. And, I'm not taking that, I'm not saying that as an arrogant statement. I can do
That's a fact.
I can do a 2-family with as many bedrooms as whatever, and that's not gonna make anything better.
That's right.
I believe that, I believe that my solution is the best, and I think that this alternative solution is the second best solution. And a 2-family is at best the 3rd best solution.
Well, good luck with it, and hopefully, we meet with staff, and hopefully we'll see a plan, and hopefully,
Yep.
and then we'll know exactly what's best.
Definitely get some-
We understand, no, you're not gonna get 6 parking spots there. But it would be, the relief would change completely by doing the numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion made, and all in favor, so let's continue to June 1st, okay? We're all set, good luck. We'll see you then.
Thank you.
Did we vote?
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay.
Okay, moving along, do we have anything from any board members on any follow-ups or anything?
The historic board will be going on TV, not at our regular June meeting, which is the 2nd Monday, but sometime later in the month. Yet to be determined.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good night, thank you. Good night. Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, I ran into our old friend, Adam Bakey of UMass Lowell, and he reminded me, we were going to have him in, and that never got put together, and he's still interested in coming and doing a presentation on the university's plans and on their building. I think it would be great to have him.
To have-
Contact staff, and I'm sure they'll accommodate him.
I'm sorry, I was talking to the applicant.
Oh, yes, we still want to get, I ran into Adam Bakey, and
Oh,
we're still
Adam.
interested in having him in to do his presentation about the university's building project. So sometime when we've got an agenda that isn't too
Not on
full.
the first.
Yeah, not on June 1st. But sometime when we can give him a little while, it's not going to be too long a meeting.
Maybe we can get Adam to agree that they'd have to come before us with site plan review when they build a new building.
Any other comments, Rich, you want to address that? Do you have any questions on that meeting?
No, I don't. I may try to go to that myself.
Okay. Judy, I said, we noticed you gave us an informational packet in the, for a seminar for stormwater permit that's coming up
In Littleton?
on June 3rd. So I think some people have, Rich indicated he might want to go, so would he check with you to
I might go.
register?
In fact, I'll check my calendar, see what we got.
So if they want to go, they check with you to?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, all right, okay.
All right. Yeah, okay. All right, do we have anything further? If not, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Chair votes yes. Good night, thank you, everybody, we are adjourned.
So hopefully there's no more other business coming up.